I couldn't put content up on favorited because I don't have 25 followers over there yet. So I don't know what we're going to do if TikTok goes away other than our normal spaces and YouTube and Facebook. And these are some of the other apps that I joined, like just in case. Obviously, I'm not doing Red Note. I don't know if you guys have actually seen Clapper was easy. Clapper was the one place that I was able to successfully learn and all of that. So let me just say this. Give me 1 second. What, baby? What? Oh, you still have 10 minutes, sissy. Okay, so Jojo, let me tell you why I will not be on Red Note. So Red Note is literally owned by the Chinese Communist government. When you agree to the terms, you are agreeing to abide by their constitution. Like literally, that's what you are. That's what you have signed up for. That is not a space that I want to be in. Like, I get it. I hear you and all of that. It might be great. I know that it has, I know limit. Yeah, that's literally what it says. And it's a no for me. I am on YouTube, Deborah. I am on YouTube. Hello, everybody. How are you on Facebook and YouTube? You about to weigh in at Weight Watchers? Well, I've been there, done that. Give me a second. I got to reload my printer, folks. I have to reload my printer. So give me a second. Yeah, they have the rights to your content, Jojo. That is an absolute no-go for me. It just is. Like, yeah, it's not something your girl right here is going to do. And shit, I got to put the things in here. Hold on. All right. Okay, it's going to finish printing. Yeah, because so listen, folks, Red Note is a no-go for me. It's an absolute not going to happen. Don't want you to have access to my stuff. Not signing my life away. Not looking for nobody to come get me for violating the Chinese Constitution. None of that. Hey, Brianna, I saw your email and I will get to it and do the things. So in case you all wondering, so this right here is the majority of Jack Smith's final report that we are going to look at. I'm going to also be walking back through this superseding indictment that we've covered once before. Also looking at the list of co-conspirators and political consultants that are named in those so that we actually understand who there is. No, I don't need any more, Patty Melt. I don't need any more. So let me, it's okay. No worries, Brianna. Yeah, no Red Note for me. So let me just say this. Here's what I highly recommend. Hey, Stephen, good to see you. So here's what I highly recommend, folks. I am live right now on TikTok here. I am live on YouTube and on Facebook right now, right? So do me a favor, make sure that you are following these places. I'm getting better at being active on Blue Sky, right? Because I only have so many hours of the day. And I just joined Clapper favorited and fan base. Not really sure which one I'm going to be doing. I know that Clapper was very easy for me to upload content to. Favorited, I couldn't even do anything until I had 25 followers. And then fan base was limited in terms of the size of videos that I could upload, which was kind of weird. And it just wasn't successful for me. So is it helpful to watch you here and on YouTube at the same time? Probably just to build up the audience and all of that, right? Jojo, they can't, let me just say this. Trump can't decide. I need for people to understand this. Donald Trump can't decide what happens with TikTok. He doesn't get to decide. If the Supreme Court upholds the law, ain't shit anybody else can do about it. I just need everybody to understand that. He cannot do an executive order that supersedes a law that Congress passed. I just need for everybody to understand that. It is up to SCOTUS, folks. It is up to SCOTUS. It is not up to either president at all. I don't know why people are saying this. This is just, to me, this is just falling into the politicalization of everything and pitting Biden against Trump, when in reality, it has nothing to do with either one of them. It has to do with the Supreme Court. It has to do with all of those things, right? So, I just need everybody to be clear. Tam Bam, TikTok is not the problem. I just want to be clear, okay? TikTok is not the problem. It is ByteDance, which is who owns the algorithm. And that's why the information is being shared with them, right? So just saying, just so everyone is super clear. Damn, I forgot it had these pictures in it. Well, I might need ink tomorrow. But we'll go, right? This is why I don't watch the news. Yes. 3 more minutes, love. Yep. 3 more minutes. What book did you pick to read? I can't see. Oh, okay, cool. No, pick another book. If you already read a whole book, pick another one. So, well, ByteDance has said they have no intention of selling the algorithm. What's up, Adriana? So, you know what I mean? If I had one of the best algorithms known to man, I wouldn't sell that shit either. Yes, correct, Edna. I know, I saw that. What's up, Michael the Boss? What you got to say? Jump on in here.
What's going on?
Well, I'm good. I'm better, as you can tell.
Yeah, I didn't like what I was seeing, but I was feeling it too myself. I just want to say this because we don't know what's going to happen with this app.
Yes.
So if you allow me a couple of minutes here, just to kind of, I've told you about, my career. I was in IT for 27 years, but I was never a big social media person because I really only have social media just to have connections with people.
Right.
There's a lot of underlying stuff that I try to stay away from.
Yeah.
And so, and I came across you one day, and so those people in here that don't know me, I've only been on this app for 4 months, but I really got on this app because my daughter wanted me to see a couple of videos and stuff or whatever. And then I came across your live. And the people that I have been able to fellowship with on this app since I've been on here, the Titus and the Lisa's and the Ediths and the T's and the Candies and the Bronze
and the Stacy's and the
Stacy's and I can go on and
yeah,
on.
the Yayas, like there's so many.
And the Yayas, there's so many. And I just want to say, because again, we don't know where we're going to go with this app, and I mean this sincerely. You guys have enriched me more than I was before I got on this app. And it's been hard for me. It's been hard for me because I'm a protector by nature. So when I hear stories of, what a lot of people have been through and they share their stories, it just moves me in a way that I can never give anybody back what I've gained from these conversations. I've probably spent more time on your live than any other live. And I've gone on other lives because of you guys. I've gone on other lives and I've been on other panels that I never thought I would go on because I don't really give a shit that much about those things. But the education that I've gotten from what you've offered on this app have been changing, like literally life-changing. And I've been able to be a better businessman because of it. I've been able to be better in my community because of it. I've been more informed because of it. And I cannot thank you, Dee. I cannot thank you enough. And I mean that.
I appreciate it.
And so, it's really important that I share that with you because the one thing I told you a long time ago, you always have a couple of 100 people, 700 people looking at you, right? But you never really get to see us. And so we get to see everything through your eyes and through your facial expressions. And when you're happy and when you're sad and when you're not up for the fuckery and when you're spicy Danny and when I'm all here for it and I'm not here for it. And then the grandbabies and we get to know, the grandkids and your daughters and other people. Sonny, I love, Sonny, what Sonny's doing on this app. It is just.
Yes, you have 10 minutes.
It is incredible. It's incredible what you've done. It's incredible who you've introduced us to through your advocacy. It's incredible that you share stories. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I hold other people by your standard.
Yes.
I hold people by your standard. And I wanted to, and I know I'm monologuing, but I really need, because it's been on my heart. Because you're so damn far away. But it's important for you to understand that your work, your life's work that you put into this will never go unrecognized. It will never go unrecognized. The things that you have done and the people that you've touched and the knowledge that we've been able to share to connect with other people. It's just immeasurable. It's just immeasurable. So I just wanted to thank you for that. I wanted to thank you for giving me something inside me that I didn't even know I had.
Yes, I'll get them for you.
I didn't care this much about politics. I've cared this much about people. And you've allowed me to merge those two together in a way that I never thought that I would even advocate for. You've made me take my new neighbor on another journey that I never saw coming, right? I've been giving you an update on that.
Can y'all hear Michael on Facebook and YouTube? Can y'all hear him? I didn't have the mic on for a minute, so.
No, that's fine, because at the end of the day, phenomenal people deserve to get phenomenal flowers.
I appreciate that.
And you've done that. You've done that. And you will continue to do it. And if the app goes away, I'm following your ass everywhere. It's not stalking, I'm just following.
Yeah, don't stalk, but yeah, no.
Yeah, I'm just following.
Thanks,
but
Tammy.
What we are trying to do and the work that that needs to be done is not for a moment, it's a lifetime.
Yep.
You've done that. You've done that. So I need you to understand that you have somebody on the West Coast that's working with the gift that you're given.
I appreciate it.
And I meant what I said. And when I told you your baby's out here in California, if you ever need anything, I'm there. That's why I go in her lives, gift all I can, and get out.
And I appreciate it.
I want to make sure people understand, if I've met you on this app, being a Danican, you have made me a better person. Hands down. Valerie, listen, Valerie, you said things in the comments that have made me think about things differently. I appreciate you for that. Stacy, the journey you've been on, being able to connect with you guys, it has been great. If the app continues, this doesn't change this conversation. If the app goes away, it doesn't change the conversation. I just want to continue to do the work and connect with as many of you guys as I humanly possibly can.
100%.
D, you got a brother in me for life.
I appreciate you. Right back at you.
And there's some other things I want to bring, not today, but before the end of the weekend, I want to bring something to your table.
Uh-oh. I lost you, Michael. You're muted for some reason.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that you have earned from me. And I want to make sure.
Okay.
They're trying to blow me up at one of the restaurants, but you brought things to me that I need to make sure that I return in kind to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
And we will talk about it, but yeah, we're connected at the hip.
Yep. I got it. Listen, I appreciate you. And this is why people have been like, what if TikTok goes away? Are you concerned? Are you this? Are you that? And I'm like, no, I'm not. Because here's the thing. Number one, I can't do anything about it. The only thing I can do is what I'm doing right now. I can tell people where else to find me. I can say to everybody that are already subscribers and people who want to subscribe, make sure you're in the Discord so I can connect with everybody. And then we can set that up a different way and keep right on pushing, because there is a lot of work to do. It's never been more clear than today. The last couple of days it's become very crystal clear to me. When you start to see them moving people off of committees, what's up, Chelsea? When you start to see, just all of the things that are transpiring, this is where, Tori, why isn't YouTube working well for you? Why isn't YouTube working well for you? I don't know why that would be. But yeah, like there's a lot that we need to do. And so I'm excited about that. I will tell y'all this. So I checked shortly before I got on. I'm approaching 850 downloads on the podcast in the first 5 days, which is phenomenal. If you reach 1,100 downloads in your first 7 days, you are considered to be in the top 5% of podcasts. So I'm definitely excited about that, and hoping that people continue to look it up and to listen and to download and to share and to all of those things. And so, I'm just excited about where we can go, and the difference that hopefully we can make. That for me, that's the end of it. Yep, there's only 2 episodes up. I will tell you, here's what I have decided. Yeah, you can download from Podbean, Redwood. Yeah. So here's the thing. Why is it? I don't know why it's throwing you to a video, Tori. I really don't. Thanks for joining the team, Marnie. Yeah. So I think what my goal is going to be. Yep, Spotify as well. So listen, I'm still getting emails every day that no, Jojo, I didn't put them over there because they aren't video, they are just audio. So I didn't do that. Tori, you might want to go out and come back in, I guess. But Gotcha. So I think the thing that I'm trying to make happen. So this is what I think I want to do is at first I just said it was going to be weekly because I wanted to give myself enough room. And what I find is that there are things that are happening that are so significant. Like we talk about them on a live, but TikTok don't keep that live up. So it just goes away. You know what I mean? Like after we talk about something really in depth on a live, it's not accessible anymore. And so, cool, no worries, Michael. And so my thought process was to start doing a podcast episode on Saturday and then another one on Wednesday. And my thought process was to kind of like maybe alternate them some with maybe just me and then me interviewing someone and things like that. So my goal, hear me say goal, is to have another episode up on Saturday. So I hope to be able to record that either late tonight or early tomorrow, right? I do have to repeat info constantly. But you know what I've learned about that, Helen Wills, because I tend to not do that. I tend to think that once I say a thing and I cover a thing, I should just move on. And what I'm really coming to learn is that people aren't here all the time. Right. And so even people who are consistent, they miss days. And so they miss things. And just because I see like some of the same familiar folks all the time, it doesn't mean that they are there. Yeah. So Stacey, I need to download some more of my lives from TikTok to put over on YouTube like I did the other one. And so, it's almost, I'm starting to think of it like a news cycle. Like a news cycle, they have to repeat something several times to make sure that different people hear the information. Right, Stacey, that's why Kamala kept repeating herself. And so that's kind of the thought process that I'm having now. So having said that, right before I went live tonight, I did 2, you followed on YouTube. Love that, Ruben. Thanks. So I did 2 videos on TikTok tonight. I've posted one of them on Facebook. The second one I haven't done yet. And they are about House Resolution 7 in Congress, and they are about the South Carolina Bill 3537. So both of those are extremely important pieces of legislation. I do hope that you watch those videos. They are like 3 to 5 minutes or something like that. 7 minutes is the max, I think. But it's really, really important information, especially if you are a woman or you have daughters or you have wives or girlfriends or aunts and nieces. You know what I mean? Like any of the things. Like I'm just saying. Oh, holy gee, Sandy. Take care of yourself. I appreciate you being here, but also take care of yourself. Clear that upper respiratory thing up so that you can get better. Okay. So having said that, there's a lot that I want to talk about tonight. So folks, this is literally the entire Jack Smith report right here. So the other night when this came out, I actually read the first 111 pages. Linda, welcome. Glad to have you here. I read the first 111 pages until 4 a.m. And we didn't get a chance to finish it. And we didn't have this list where we were talking about all of the co-conspirators, all of the political consultants and who everybody was. And then I thought it was really, really important that in addition to that, thanks, Nyla. I'm glad you're loving the podcast. In addition to that, I thought it would be important to go back and take a look at the superseding indictment, right? So buckle up. We're going to be here for a bit tonight. So I hope that you all are on task and ready to be here. Well, Brandy, you take care of yourself. Hi, Carmen. So let me just go ahead and level set really quickly. If you are new to my space, thanks, Carol. Good Lord. Make sure you take care of yourself with that prednisone. Did you post yourself reading that? You definitely should. I didn't. I did not. Yes, ma'am. I might tonight only because tonight it will be a little bit more in detail, and that sort of thing. Sis, you got 3 minutes. Can you do me one favor? Can you go in the refrigerator, look on the bottom shelf for me, and get me one of my, it's an orange can of Red Bull, please. Okay. Yay, Nikki. I love that. Okay. So if you are new, either on Facebook, YouTube, or on TikTok, please put a 1 in the comments for me so that we can welcome you appropriately. And then I can share with you how we do things in this space. Okay. Hey, KG, good to see you. So if you are new, put a 1, put a 1, put a 1. Welcome to the 1, people. Somebody, yeah, it's a Red Bull kind of night. Somebody put a 1 and I know they're not. Yeah, Alex, shut up. You're not a 1. Lori Pop, good to see you. Welcome. KG, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Glad to see new people finding their way here. Hopefully. So listen, one of the things that I would love for you to do is make sure that you join the Discord. Chelch, you're not new either. Thank you, love. So listen, my Discord is open for everybody. And then there is a private subscriber section as well, right? Yay. Yes, ma'am. I love that you loved the podcast. Tamara, you've been here a few times. Okay, so check this out. So let me go ahead and tell you the way we do things in this space. We don't do rage baiting, arguing. I'm not debating anyone anymore. I'm not asking you why you voted for whoever you voted for, because it's not necessary information anymore. Like there's just no need to be doing that. The election is over. Oh yeah, so this one is strawberry apricot, and don't judge me because this is what we need, right? Yeah, my spicy laser. That is the goal, right? So let me just say this to you guys. Ooh, something is different on TikTok for me. But anyway, so listen to this, folks. Just so that you all know, I ask for 4 things in this space, 4 things and 4 things only. I ask, number 1, that you are respectful. Even if you disagree with me, just please be respectful, right? To me, to people in the chat, to the people that we're talking about, just be respectful, right? Number 2, thanks, Lisa. Number 2, don't use slurs of any kind. If you use slurs of any kind, even if it's towards a Trump supporter, you will be muted or booted from the live because we don't get down like that in this space. Thank you for sharing, Nikki. Number 3, do not spam my comments in the chat, right? Because it just isn't productive, right? So what I would love for you to do, thanks, Tootie, is just say what you got to say and then keep it pushing, right? Don't say it 5, 6, 7, 8 times. And then number 4, don't use all caps because that is for the moderators on TikTok so that I can see what they need me to see. Or if you are received grace and you have any vision issues, then just let us know and then you'll be fine to use all caps. Okay. That's it. That's it, folks. That's all you got. And let me just say this. This is the motto that I try to live by. Hey, Julia Day. It is do no harm and take no shit. So, oh, and that's okay. It'll quit after a while, Nikki. So you're walking on the kid's tablet. I love that. So again, it is do no harm and take no shit. So if you come for me, you might find me, and just be ready for that if you do. Okay. Having said that, let's move on and make it happen. Right. Do no harm. I'm not going to look for harm, but if you come this way, because yeah, I will match that energy sometimes. All right. So, all right. Just so that everybody knows, all of these documents are in my link tree. Okay. If you have not gone to my link tree, I highly encourage you to do so. YouTube people, it is in the bio on my page. Linktree, TikTok folks, it is on my TikTok profile. Facebook folks, I have not even put it over there yet, but I will. I promise I will. You can find me pretty much everywhere by doing The Danny Cook. That's how you find me. To find the podcast, you do The Danny Cook Show, and that's it, right? So you just happen to stop by here. When? Earlier today, I seem stressed? Right, Carol, right. Earlier today, I was stressed. Yeah. Earlier today, it was a lot. The last couple of days had been a lot. So, yeah. All right. So, no, I haven't really been stressed the last few times. I would say that I'm on TikTok right now, Nyla. Yeah, I'm on TikTok. I'm on YouTube and Facebook all at the same time. Right. Titan is the one who made me go live earlier today. Y'all, this is no kidding. If you're on YouTube and Facebook, I had gotten my stuff set up and I was getting ready to go live. but I was doing something with Mila, right? And something else. And then I came back over here and I had like 1,000 likes and 100 and some people in the room. And I was like, when did I go live? And Titan's ass was sitting on my desk right in front of my phone. And he had hit the live button on TikTok and made me go live. And I didn't know that I was live until I walked over here. So great. I'm just glad I was fully clothed and all the things, because my cat made me go live today. You got to love that, right? Yeah, well, because it was a lot, right? Titan started the party. All right. So I want to go back over some things. Now, the way that I'm going to be reading tonight is a little bit different from the way that I was reading the other night. Okay. Because the way that I was reading the other night, I was looking for things that were new, and I was looking for things that I hadn't seen before, and maybe what was he going to say and all of that, right? And tonight, now that I have a gist of what's in there, I want to be able to correlate it to who the people are that we're talking about, what we can take from that, other testimony that we've read before. So breaking news, Joe Biden won't enforce the TikTok ban before leaving office, he says. Whatever that means. And then we're going to go through the superseding indictment kind of at the same time. Okay. So I'm going to, what's not showing up for you? What's not showing up? Okay. You said it at the same time as me. There you go. Right. Cat, that's hilarious. All right. So this is the opening letter. Thank you. Thank you, Susie. Who am I talking to? When? I'm talking to people on YouTube and Facebook while I'm talking to you on TikTok. All right. So this is the opening letter. Okay. And I'm going to share it with you guys. Okay. So here's what it says. This is the final report of the special counsel under 28 CFR 600.8. You had to type my name in. Yeah, that was for Nyla. Oh, thanks, Lexi girl. Appreciate it. All right, so here we go. It says, Dear Mr. Attorney General, in the fall of 2022, former President Donald J. Trump was a subject of two separate criminal investigations by the Department of Justice. The first was an investigation into whether any person violated the law in connection with efforts to interfere with the lawful transition of power following the 2020 presidential election. The second investigation focused on the possession of highly classified documents at Mr. Trump's Mar-a-Lago social club following his presidency. On November 15th of 2022, Mr. Trump declared his candidacy to unseat President Joseph R. Biden, who had previously stated his intention to stand for re-election. Now, let me just say this to you all. That's highly unusual to have someone announce their candidacy for the presidency 2 years in advance. So we all understand that that is not something that normally takes place. Y'all get that, right? To announce that you are going to run for office 2 years prior to the election is not standard. So for those people out there who are Trump supporters, who are Republicans, who say, "Oh, this was a witch hunt. This was election interference." No, listen. The only reason he could even claim that it was election interference is because he announced about a year earlier than most people announce. What's up, Nico? Hey, Yvette. So the fact that Donald Trump announced his presidency November 15th of 2022 is your first clue that he knew this case was going to be trouble and he was going to do everything possible to avoid it. Thanks, Christine. I appreciate it. Right? So I'm just setting that out there for everybody. I know some of you guys that follow me on Facebook. I know that you all are Trump supporters, and that's fine. I actually want you to be here. I want you to be here in this space. I want you to hear the facts. I want you to hear what we're talking about in a space that isn't about being a Democrat, being a MAGA, being a Trump supporter, being a not, just listening to the facts and using common sense, right? And I know everybody's like, oh my God, not everybody has common sense. I know, but we can all agree on what we know are the norms. And the norm is that nobody announces their candidacy 2 years in advance. It just isn't a thing, right? So then he says, on November 15th, 2022, Mr. Trump declared his candidacy to unseat President Joseph R. Biden Jr., who had previously stated his intention to stand for re-election. Mr. Trump's announcement created a highly unusual situation in which the department, referring to the Justice Department, an agency within the executive branch headed by President Biden, was conducting criminal investigations regarding his newly declared challenger. Britt Speaks, we are looking at Jack Smith's final report, and we are also looking at the superseding indictment, along with the list of the co-conspirators and the political consultants, right? Because all of those things are important, right? So I want to kind of try to connect the dots. Like when we read it the other night, it was because it had just became public, and we were just trying to get through as much of it as possible to see what was in there that was new. But I think this time, the same way that we read Eric Hirschman's testimony, right, is the way that I want to read this. I want to read this testimony and like pause and walk us through it in the way so that we just kind of like follow the story along the way. You got it? So here's what it says. Based on a long-standing recognition that, quote, in certain extraordinary cases, it is in the public interest to appoint a special prosecutor to independently manage an investigation and prosecution, end quote. You, talking to Merrick Garland, as Attorney General, promptly did so here to, quote unquote, underscore the department's commitment to both independence, thank you, Peculiar Eve, and accountability in particularly sensitive matters, end quote. Now, when Donald Trump spent the last 2 years saying that this was Joe Biden weaponizing the Department of Justice, the reason why we know that's not true is that is exactly why Merrick Garland hired Jack Smith and brought him from The Hague, right, to do this, because he was outside. He was outside of, well, when he says promptly, Blue Honeypot, here's what he means. Merrick Garland did it on the 18th. So this is the thing. So this is what he's talking about. There wasn't a need for a special prosecutor until Donald Trump announced his candidacy, right? So listen, when Donald Trump wasn't running against Joe Biden, there was no conflict of interest in someone in the DOJ investigating him, right? Now, the DOJ is under the executive branch. So when Donald Trump announced his candidacy on the 15th, Merrick Garland had to get a special prosecutor. So it removed, any conflict of interest so that somebody from the outside would now be investigating the case, not the regular DOJ that falls under the administration. So when Donald Trump says to everyone, Joe Biden weaponized the Department of Justice, it's not true. It literally can't be true, because that was the whole reason they got Jack Smith as a special prosecutor. That's the whole reason, is to make sure that the investigation was independent of the DOJ and independent of the Biden administration. So when people are talking about this and they tell you, oh, well, it was just Biden doing ABCD XYZ, it is important that you know these dates so that you can properly explain to people as to why it happened the way that it happened. The DOJ was already investigating Donald Trump. The DOJ was already investigating and prosecuting, right, January 6th folks, starting with the boots on the ground. And that was fine. But when Donald Trump said, hey, I am now going to run against Joe Biden, it became imperative to have a special prosecutor outside of the DOJ take over the investigation, because he was now going to be Joe Biden's opponent in the upcoming election. And so 3 days after Donald Trump said, hey, I'm going to run for president, Merrick Garland said, Jack Smith is going to be the special prosecutor, which is what he was supposed to do. So I think, and I've even said this, I'm a little pissed that Merrick Garland didn't do things sooner. Here's what I don't know, and what none of us know. I don't know if Merrick Garland himself would have been able to bring charges sooner had he not had to bring in someone brand new at that stage of the game. Does that make sense? Are y'all following me? For all I know, if Donald Trump had not announced his candidacy, it is quite possible that the DOJ could have brought charges sooner because they had been investigating for the last year and a half, almost 2 years, right? So I have expressed frustration with Merrick Garland. I have. And to be honest, I'm still frustrated because I still wish he had brought things sooner. But I understand that Donald Trump announcing his presidency or his intention to run for president created a conundrum and a situation in which he immediately had to get a special prosecutor, which means Jack Smith had to get brought up to speed as quickly as possible with as many of the facts as possible. And he's a very thorough guy. There was no need, Linka. There was no need for a special prosecutor. So listen, this is the thing. You can only bring in a special prosecutor. Listen, this is the quote. This is based on DOJ policy, and that's why it's in quotations. Here's what it says. Quote, in certain extraordinary cases, it is in the public interest to appoint a special prosecutor to independently manage an investigation and prosecution. You don't just randomly select or appoint a special prosecutor. There has to be extraordinary circumstances that make it necessary to do so. Okay, so he couldn't. And the reason that he did it was when Donald Trump said, hey, I'm going to run for president. And then immediately Merrick Garland said, I'm going to appoint a special prosecutor literally 72 hours later, which is what he was supposed to do, right? So some of these things, you can't do them just willy-nilly. And it wasn't necessary to, okay? So let's keep going. Attorney General Merrick B. Garland remarks on the special appointment of special counsel, Washington, D.C., November 18th of 2022. Yeah, he did run to stay out of jail, Mel Gray, 100%. He ran to stay out of jail. We all know that. No, it wouldn't be extraordinary. It wouldn't be so when we talk about extraordinary, we're talking about the extraordinary need for the investigation to be done by someone other than the DOJ. And that wasn't necessary. The only reason it became necessary is because the DOJ is part of the executive office. That's it. That's the only reason. And now, because the Department of Justice is under Joe Biden, then to to make sure that it was all being done independently, then that's when the special prosecutor was brought in. Okay. Thank you guys for hitting 100K already. All right. So on the day that I was appointed, I pledged that I would exercise independent judgment, follow the best traditions of the Department of Justice, and conduct my work expeditiously and thoroughly to reach whatever outcomes the facts and the law dictated. With the aid of an outstanding team, that is what I did. Upon my appointment, I organized a staff of experienced career federal prosecutors, and together we conducted the investigations and subsequent prosecutions under our mandate, consistent with the department tradition of integrity and nonpartisanship that have guided us all of us throughout our careers. And then he goes on to say, Attorney General Edward H. Levi, who assumed the department's helm in the wake of Watergate, summed up those traditions best, right? One paramount concern must always guide our way. This is the keeping of the faith in the essential decency and even-handedness in the law, a faith which is the strength of the law and which must be continually renewed or else it is lost. In a society that too easily accepts the notions that everything can be manipulated, it is important to make clear that the administration of federal justice seeks to be impartial and fair. So Jack Smith, I thought ironically, is quoting the guy that took over the DOJ after Watergate. Kind of ironic, right? You see the similarities there. And then it says, and this was from his address to the Los Angeles County Bar Association in 1976. Attorney General Levi's remarks shared 46 years to the day before my appointment ring as true now as they did then. How crazy is that? Listen to me. This was November 18th of 1976 when Attorney General Levi made those remarks. Jack Smith was appointed November 18th of 2022. Literally 46 years to the day that speech was given when Jack Smith was appointed. Kind of crazy, right? All right, sissy, it's bedtime, love. And I know it's wild, right? It's really wild. There's so many things like this that happen, right? The flags that are supposed to be at half staff, and the last time that happened was Nixon, right? There's just so many similarities and things that just keep showing up that remind us of, what is. Hey, babes, do you want to give me your phone so I can plug it up for you? Just put it right there and I'll get it. Or you want to bring it to me? And then when I am done, I will come snuggle with you. Okay. Good night, love bug. All right. And this is Jack talking. He says, I have been a career prosecutor in local, national, and international settings over the last 3 decades, working shoulder to shoulder with hundreds of prosecutors in that time. Sis, lay down. You got to go to sleep. Okay? You're done reading your book. It's time to go to sleep. The prosecutors and staff of the special counsel's office are, in my estimation, without peer in terms of accomplishment, capability, judgment, and work ethic. More importantly, in my book, they are people of great decency and of the highest personal integrity. The intense public scrutiny of our office, the threats to their safety, and the relentless, unfounded attacks on their character and integrity did not deter them from fulfilling their oaths and professional obligations. Now, I want to pause right there for just a moment, because here's what we know. We know that anyone that Donald Trump has spoken badly of on social media, come on, put it down. I don't, thank you. We know that anyone that he has talked about in a derogatory manner has ended up on the wrong end of threats, of physical threats, life threats, right? We know this to be true. We know it from justices to their families, to prosecutors, to their families. And one of the things that I wish we had access to is I wish we had access to those threats. I wish the American people could see all of the threats towards the people, the public servants who have done their best to take care of the country and their oath to the Constitution. I wonder sometimes if it would change people. And you might immediately go, no, they wouldn't care. I don't know about that, because I will tell you something. There is something about hearing someone say I was threatened and then reading the words of someone being threatened. There is something different that happens, right? So like when I had the guy that was threatening me and my mom, right? It was one thing for people to say, for people to hear me say that he was going to, that he was going to torture me or my mom or this or that or whatever, and that he used racial slurs and whatever. It was different than when I sat before the grand jury and they could actually read the messages in print. It's a very different thing when they got to see the words that were being said to me, right? And this was an all-white grand jury in a county that is 96% white, and they indicted the white male who was threatening me and my mom. There is something different when people can see the words. And so sometimes I really wish that the people who have received these threats, I really wish, not repeating them, not testifying about them, I wish they would post the screenshots of them. You can redact who they came from, right? But I really do wish people would show the timestamp on them. Show them in correlation to when Donald Trump said something and when the threat came in. Do that. and then see if it makes a difference in the way that people perceive things, the way that people see things. You know what I mean? That's what I really wish. And I do think that it would make a difference. Maybe not with everybody, but I do think with those middle of the road people, it would. I really do. So let me keep going. Blah, 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 blah. These are intensely good people who did hard things well. That's one hell of a statement. These are intensely good people who did hard things well. I will not forget the sacrifices they made and the personal resilience they and their families have shown over the last 2 years. Our country owes them a debt of gratitude for their unwavering service and dedication to the rule of law. Without pause, they have upheld the department's commitment to the impartial and independent pursuit of justice. For that, I am grateful, as I know you are as well. Staffed by some of the most experienced prosecutors in the department, my office operated under the same department policies and procedures that guide all federal prosecutors. The regulations under which I was appointed required that we do so. And then he actually lists the regulation under which he was appointed. So when Donald Trump says that he was illegally appointed, not a thing. It's literally not a thing. The law is 28 CFR 600.7A. That's the law. And he said, and our work benefited from those processes. The department has long recognized that proceeding with, quote, uniformity of policy is necessary to the prestige of federal law, end quote. Robert H. Jackson said that in the Federal Prosecutor in 1940. As a result, throughout our work, we regularly consulted the Justice Manual, the department's publicly available guidebook on policies and procedures, and adhered to its requirements. Now, here's what I love about that. So he said that there is a manual. It is called the Justice Manual, and it is publicly available. And it's a guidebook on the policies and the procedures of the federal prosecutors. Why do I love that? Well, because when Senator Sheldon Whitehouse asked for the guidebook, the procedure book, the policy book on how the FBI conducts supplemental background investigations, he found out 6 years later, they don't have one. There isn't a guidebook on how the FBI conducts background investigations for Supreme Court nominations or for Senate nominations, like appointments. Isn't that crazy? That there's not a guidebook, there's not a procedure, there's not a manual. But there is for the DOJ, there is for the special prosecutor, and it is publicly available. So we all can see it if we want to. Now, here's what I wish had happened. Okay. This is me and my wishful thinking, right? Here's what I wish. I wish every time Donald Trump said that Jack Smith was doing something unethical, every time he said that Jack Smith was doing a witch hunt, that he wasn't adhering to law, that he was just doing whatever, I wish mainstream media had taken out that damn justice manual, gotten the folks that are their legal commentators, their legal correspondents to look up the procedures, right? And read them on media and say, listen, no, he's not. This is what the justice manual says he is supposed to do, and this is why he's doing it this way. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if the media did their job and actually fact-checked every lie that he told and used a publicly available justice manual to do it? Can you imagine if that had been done month after month, tweet after tweet, truth after truth? Imagine if that had been done. Would we be where we are today if that had been done? Here's what I will say. I can't say anybody was bought. What I will say is our media is controlled by 6 corporations. Over 80% of our media is controlled by the same 6 corporations. So, you know, I look at them the same way I look at big oil. They're going to drill when it's profitable. They're going to fact check when and if it's profitable. They're going to lead with the outrageous headline because it's profitable. Hey, Carla, right? That's what they're going to do. It's not about journalism anymore. Right? And I think that that's what people have to remember. But it just dawns on me that there is a publicly available justice manual where the average American citizen can see what their processes and their procedures and their policies are. What if people had just pointed that out time and time again? What if the mainstream media had made sure that everybody was aware of that time and time again? What if they reported on the justice manual as many times as, or even half the number of times as they reported that Trump fell asleep in court? Where would we be today? I don't know that we would be facing a second Trump administration. Yeah, no, so crazy painted lady, I disagree. When you say that you have to remember who voted for him, that they are the uneducated, let me just say this. They are not all uneducated. I think we have to be careful with that. They might be misinformed. They might have been susceptible to a lot of disinformation, but I don't know that we want to talk about them being uneducated. And here's why I say that. This entire country reads on the average of a 6th grade reading level. That's across the board. And those people vote Democrat too. This is part of the reason they don't like Democrats, is because people are consistently putting them down. Do you know how angry people are when you say, oh, you're just easily fooled? You make me seem like I'm someone that can be taken advantage of. Right. And I know a lot of them that are educated. I know a lot of them that have money in the bank. I know a lot of them, right, that are extremely successful by society's standards. And they voted for Trump because they voted with their wallets. Okay. So I think that we have to stop saying that they are all uneducated. Right. I think that one of the things that you must take into consideration, thank you, Wawa, is is their faith. Let me tell you something. The manipulation of religion over the last 8 years has been astounding. It has been astounding to see manipulation of Christianity to the degree that it has been. It's crazy. And I said this on my podcast episode that came out yesterday, and I'm going to say it again. Contrary to what people believe, using the Lord's name in vain is not about cursing. It's not about cursing. Using the Lord's name in vain is when you confess to be a Christian while you are using the Lord's name to manipulate people, to lie to people, to steal, to cheat, to lie. That is using the Lord's name in vain. Pete Hegseth did it yesterday. That's using the Lord's name in vain. Okay? So let's just be clear about that. So, I think that we need to be clear. And when people when people do that, that's the true blasphemy. Jesus and Jenny, you got it, 100%. Right? And when you convince people, I have said this for a long time now, when you convince people that this is the will of God and they get a chance to participate in it, what will they not do? Hey, Candace, good to see you. Right? So if I were going to point out the things that I know played a role in this election, I would definitely say it's religion. I would definitely say that it is the organized religion of Christianity and the church in this country. Notice I did not say that it was Jesus or that it was Jesus Christ or it was the love of Jesus. Nope. I said it was the organized religion of Christianity being manipulated. When you've got pastors putting all these folks, listen, when the pastor puts Lauren Boebert in the pulpit, folks, we have a problem. Let's just be clear about that. When you put vape, fill me up in the movie theater, let me smoke my vape, get felt up in the movie. When you put her in the pulpit, you got a problem. All right. So I just think that we should have 100% been talking about this justice manual that was available to the entire country. It is publicly available. And I just think that if there had been responsible reporting and if they had stuck to it all the time, would we still be where we are? And I don't know that we would. Right? Our work rested upon the fundamental value of our democracy that we exist as, quote, a government of laws and not of men. Did y'all hear that? We are supposed to be a government of laws, not of men. And what I see happening in these Senate confirmation hearings, I see a government of men. And I see a government, let me not say men, because I think of men as something very different. I see a government of the male species who have an inflated ego and a higher opinion of themselves than they actually deserve. And because they have so little actual belief and confidence in themselves, they use this toxic masculinity. They use this fake bravado. They use this they use this fake shit to feel better about themselves. They use the punching down of other people. They use the making fun of other people to make themselves feel great about themselves. These are the bullies of your middle school years. That's what they are. That's what they are. And they're the guys that had to pay somebody else to do their homework. And I think whoever they got to do that damn sign behind Schmitz did a great job of spelling military. Right. Low confidence, high in arrogance. Exactly, Carla. Right, Sully. Self-aggrandizement. Yes. 100%. So, John Adams, by the way, said that in 1775. In making decisions as special counsel, I considered as a first principle whether our actions would contribute to upholding the rule of law and then acted accordingly. Our commitment, adherence to the rule of law is why we not only followed department policies and procedures, but strictly observed legal requirements and dutifully respected the judicial decisions and precedents our prosecutions prompted. That is also why in my decision-making, thanks, Smile City, in my decision-making, I heeded the imperative that, quote, no man in this country is so high that he is above the law. And that came from United States versus Lee, 1882. Simply put, the Department of Justice's guiding mandate, which my office strove to uphold, is that power, politics, influence, status, wealth, fear, and favor should not impede justice under the law. I just want to say that again. The mandate which his office strove to uphold is that power, politics, influence, status, wealth, fear, and favor should not, it doesn't say it doesn't, but it should not impede justice under the law. When I assumed responsibilities for the matters you assigned me, I came to the work with no preconceived notion of what the just outcome of the investigations would be. I was not yet familiar with all of the relevant facts and had not yet researched the relevant law. So this is something that I think that people miss. When Jack Smith was appointed in the middle of November of 2022, he had not been privy to the facts of this case. He had not been privy to the relevant law that may or may not apply based on the evidence of that investigation. So all of those things are things that he had to get up to speed with as quickly as possible. Okay. And he says, depending upon what the investigations revealed, I was equally comfortable closing the investigations or moving forward with prosecutions in one of or both matters, having done both in high-profile matters throughout my career. So Jack said, listen, this ain't my first rodeo. He said, if I got to close this books and I can't prosecute nothing, I'm cool with that. He was at The Hague, Sunshine, and he said, listen, but if I need to move forward with the prosecution, I was good with that too. Okay. Now, he said, to make prosecutorial determinations, my office gathered relevant evidence and examined whether that evidence established violations of federal criminal law. Now, this is where it gets tricky, folks. What we know something to be in common language may or may not meet the legal standard, the legal definition of that word. Okay. And he said, so listen, in doing so, I was guided by the principles of federal prosecution, which is a series of considerations designed to promote the fair and even-handed application of the law. As set forth in my report, after conducting thorough investigations, I found that with respect to both Mr. Trump's unprecedented efforts to unlawfully retain power after losing the 2020 election and his unlawful retention of classified documents after leaving office, the principles compelled prosecution. So, guys, there are actually 4 different principles for federal prosecution. And so what he does and what federal prosecutors have to do is they have to measure their evidence against those 4 principles to see if the case meets the requirements of all 4 of those things. And if it does, then it mandates that they must be prosecuted. Okay. So this isn't just like, I think I'm going to prosecute it because I think it will. Nope. He literally said, I'm going to weigh it against these things. This is what's called dotting your I's and crossing your T's and making sure that your cases are above reproach, right? So in everything that he's saying, he is giving you a precedent, a standard, a guide, a regulation for his choice and his decision-making, which is smart. Okay. So, Carol, I already covered that. Okay. So, Carol, when you say they waited too long to process the cases, so understand this. Okay. Jack Smith was appointed 3 days after Donald Trump announced he was going to run for president again. And he announced it 2 years before the election, which is not the norm. Okay. Prior to him announcing that, the investigation and any pending prosecution would have been done by the Department of Justice that is part of the executive branch. Once Donald Trump said, I am running for office, and he was now going to be the opponent of Joe Biden, that required Merrick Garland to bring in a special prosecutor, which he did 72 hours later. And then at that point, Jack Smith had to get up to speed on everything the DOJ had already been investigating for the last 19 months. Actually, longer than that, 22 months. So the DOJ had been investigating for 22 months before Jack even was brought on. And so Jack had to get up to speed. So they basically had to start all over again. Correct, Carol. All right. Let me get to where I was. Indeed, Mr. Trump's cases represented ones, quote, in which the offense was the most flagrant, the public harm the greatest, and the proof the most certain. Did y'all hear what he said? Jack said, right, Rylene, it's a significant point, which until I read Jack's letter for the second time, it didn't stand out to me, right? I was mad like everybody else. Like, well, damn, Merrick, why didn't you do it sooner? And then it caught up to me. And I was like, oh, I get it now, because I didn't understand that there has to be special circumstances. There has to be extraordinary circumstances before you could even appoint a special prosecutor, right? So understanding that helps you understand the timeline of things better. Thank you, Brandy. All right. Listen to what he said. He said, Mr. Trump's cases represented ones, quote, in which the offense was the most flagrant, the public harm the greatest, and the proof the most certain. It's a beautiful thing. Hey, Heather, good to see you. As directed by the principles, and when he says principles, he's talking about the principles of federal prosecution. He says, as directed by those principles, I made my decision in these cases without regard to Mr. Trump's, quote, political association, activities, or beliefs. He said, I don't give a damn about none of that. I am doing it based on this standard. And he said, I didn't care about any of those things or the possible personal or professional consequences of a prosecution for me or any member of my office. Justice Manual 9-27.260, quote, this is what it says. The likelihood of an acquittal due to unpopularity of some aspect of the prosecution or because of the overwhelming popularity of the defendant or his cause, end quote, or the converse, were not factors in my prosecutive decisions. I love the fact that he is quoting the Justice Manual. The Justice Manual says, listen, it doesn't matter how popular they are. It doesn't matter how unpopular it is. It doesn't matter. This is what the standards are. These are what the principles are. And this is what determines whether or not you go ahead and are prosecuted, right? Mama Dukes, I'm okay with it though. I'm okay with it. Guys, Jarhead's been blocked, so don't even talk to him. Okay, so then he says, my office also adhered at all times to the department's policy against interfering in elections. Thanks, Smile City. And he said, thank you. And then he says, as a former chief of the department's public integrity section. So I just want y'all to stop right there for just a second. Jack Smith was the chief at one point in time of the department's public integrity section. Do you know how Jack Smith must have felt for the last 2 years to see his name dragged through the mud, to be accused of election interference, to be accused of all these things, knowing that he was the chief of the department's public integrity section? He said, as that, it was important to me, as it is to you, that we adhere to both the letter and the spirit of this policy. I can assure you that neither I nor the prosecutors on my team would have tolerated or taken part in any action by our office for partisan political purposes. Throughout my service as special counsel, seeking to influence the election one way or the other, or seeking to interfere in its outcome, has played no role in the work. My office had one, and I love this, my office had one North Star: to follow the facts and law wherever they led. Nothing more and nothing less. While I relied greatly on the counsel, judgment, and advice of our team, I wanted to be clear. Now, let me tell you why I think this is amazing. Because he is making sure that his entire team is kind of covered. I see him right here attempting to protect his team. Put all that stuff on the floor, please. Put it in the floor so you're not tempted to mess with it. Thank you, baby girl. He says, I want it to be clear that the ultimate decision to bring charges against Mr. Trump was mine. It is a decision I stand fully behind. To have done otherwise on the facts developed during our work would have been to shirk my duties as a prosecutor and a public servant. After nearly 30 years of public service, that is a choice I could not abide. It is equally important for me to make clear that nobody within the Department of Justice ever sought to interfere with or improperly influence my prosecutorial decision-making. The regulations under which I was appointed provided you with the authority to countermand my decisions, but you did not do so. So understand this, y'all. The 28 CFR 600.7, that is the regulation that allowed Merrick Garland to appoint a special prosecutor. That regulation also meant that if Merrick Garland wanted to overrule Jack Smith, he could have, but he did not. And he said, nor did you, the Deputy Attorney General, or members of your staff ever attempt to improperly influence my decision as to whether to bring charges against Mr. Trump. And to all who know me well, the claim from Mr. Trump that my decisions as a prosecutor were influenced or directed by the Biden administration or other political actors is, in a word, laughable. He didn't retire. He didn't retire. Yes, ma'am. He did not retire. He's no longer needed as a special prosecutor for the DOJ. So he resigned his position and he went back to The Hague where he was working before. He didn't retire. The case was done. Goal achieved. Final report given. There was nothing else for him to do. So he resigned from his position and then he went back to the role he had previously. That's what he did. Okay. And then he says, while we were not able to bring the cases we charged to trial. Now I'm talking specifically about Jack Smith, because that's the conversation that's happening right now. Right. I believe the fact that our team stood up for the rule of law matters, and it does. I believe the example our team set for others to fight for justice without regard for the personal cost matters. The facts, as we uncovered them in our investigation and as set forth in my report, matter. Experienced prosecutors know that you cannot control outcomes. You can only do your job the right way for the right reasons. Appreciate that, Alex. Now, listen, what have I said this entire time? Even coming up to the election, what have I always said, folks? You do the work, but not be attached to the outcome. How many times have you heard me say that, TikTokers? A bunch of times. And that's exactly what Jack says. You do the work because it is the right thing to do. And you know that you cannot control the outcome. So you just let it be what it will be, and you do the best that you can do. That's it. Right? And that's what he did. And I love that. I love that Jack Smith and I both say the same thing. I'll take that as a compliment. And then he says, I conclude our work confident that we have done so and that we have met fully our obligations to the department and to our country. Accompanying this letter, I am providing you, quote, a confidential report explaining the prosecution or declination decisions reached by the special counsel, end quote. So he is telling you, listen, I'm going to explain to you why I decided to prosecute the charges that I did and why there are some that I did not bring that I considered. And he says both volumes minimize the identification of witnesses and co-conspirators. What's up, Lulu Bell? Consistent with accepted department practice. And we have provided a redacted version of volume 2 that identifies certain information that remains under seal or is restricted from public disclosure by federal rule of criminal procedure, right? And the reason why is because volume 2 discusses the conduct of Mr. Trump's alleged co-conspirators in the classified documents case, Waltine Nada and Carlos de Oliveira. And consistent with department policy, volume 2 should not be publicly released while their case remains pending. Though not required, prior to finalizing the report, my office provided an opportunity for counsel for Mr. Trump to review both volumes and for counsel for his former co-defendants in the classified document case for Mr. Nada and Mr. De Oliveira to review Volume 2. After their review, counsel for Mr. Trump wrote a letter to you, and we have provided a written response to you, both of which you will find as an addendum to this report. With this report, my service and the service of my staff is complete. I thank you for the trust you placed in me and my team, and for affording us the independence necessary to conduct our work. Public service is a privilege, and we deeply appreciate the opportunity to serve our nation in seeking to uphold the rule of law. Now, the other night, I went straight from that into the report. I'm not going to do that right now. What I'm going to do right now is go to the addendum, because I want you to hear what Jack said. Jack said, listen, after I did this report, I wasn't required to do anything else, but I let the attorneys for Donald Trump review this report. I let the attorneys for his co-defendants review this report. I didn't have to, but I did. And they wrote a letter. And my response to their letter is attached. All right. So now we're going to go to that addendum, which we did not read the other night. So this is letter from counsel to Donald J. Trump on January 6th. What a day, 2025. Hey, Beline. So here's what it says. Dear Mr. Attorney General, as you know, my office provided counsel to Mr. Trump, Mr. Nada, and Mr. De Oliveira an opportunity to review a draft of my confidential report and to provide any response in writing by 2 p.m. on January 6, 2025, so that my office could consider any issues that counsel identified in the final report before officially transmitting it to you. Only Mr. Trump's counsel chose to provide a written response in the form of a letter to you. That response fails to identify any specific factual objections to the draft. Instead, Mr. Trump principally objects to public release of the report, and in service of that objection makes a variety of false, misleading, or otherwise unfounded claims. While the determination as to whether to publicly release the report consistent with applicable legal restrictions is yours as Attorney General, I felt it necessary to address below certain inaccuracies set forth in Mr. Trump's letter. Now, here's what I hear in my brain. Do y'all remember reading Judge Chutkan's opinions about Donald Trump's objections in the trial? And she was like, instead of actually addressing the issue, you keep talking about this damn election that I done told you ain't relevant and ain't nobody interested in the schedule for the damn election. Do y'all remember? And Jack is saying the same thing. Same thing, right? Holy jeez. It's just so funny to me. Because I could just see her saying the same thing, right? Hilarious, right? But let me hold on. All right. So what I do love is that Jack is taking the time to address the inaccuracies that Mr. Trump had in his letter, right? All right. So here's what it says. So let me tell you something. If y'all have noticed this, if you just don't talk back to the trolls, if you don't talk back to them, and I keep reading facts and evidence, the trolls leave on their own. Okay. Actually, Rational Karen, that's not right. I literally already covered it. But that's not accurate. Okay. So here we go. Here's what it says. As an initial matter, the office extended Mr. Trump a special accommodation by allowing his counsel to review a draft of the report. Such an accommodation is not required under the law or regulations. Nonetheless, the office elected to provide Mr. Trump's counsel access to the draft report through what it understood to be a process similar to that employed by special counsel Robert K. Hur, by allowing counsel to review the draft in person over the course of 4 days in the office's workspace without contemporaneous access to personal electronics, but with the ability to take notes, including the use of government laptops on which to draft a response. So this is what he said. Jack said, so listen, I let Donald Trump's lawyers come in here and the lawyers for Walt and D'Oliveira, and they came to the special counsel's office. They did not have access to their electronic devices. They could use government laptops that we provided them to write a letter in response to the draft report, right? And they were allowed to take notes. But what we didn't let them do was be able to take no damn screenshots or anything else, right? They didn't have access to technology. And so I gave them this because this is what the other special counsel did as well. And they had 4 days in which to do it. Okay. So then he says, specifically on December 11, 2024, Mr. Trump's counsel requested an opportunity to review the report before it was submitted to the Attorney General. On December 15th, 2024, the office, that would be the special prosecutor's office, informed Mr. Trump's counsel that it would make arrangements for counsel to review the draft report and provided a range of dates when the review could occur. After Mr. Trump's attorneys complained that the initial review dates that the office offered conflicted with their vacation schedules, the next day the office changed the schedule to provide the dates they requested. So listen, he said, listen, we gave them a variety of days to choose from. What's up, No Hate? He said, we gave them a variety of days to choose from. And they complained that it interfered with their damn vacations. So the very next day, we accommodated them and we gave them the dates that they asked for. Okay. Whew. It was thus surprising and disappointing to see Mr. Trump's grievances about these accommodations in his letter. He said, see Trump letter at 2-3, especially after Mr. Trump's counsel explicitly stated their, quote, genuine and, quote, personal appreciation, end quote, to the office for the new dates in a phone call on December 16th. He said, I know y'all not up here complaining about the days that we gave you to review because we gave you the damn dates that you asked for. And you told us you were really appreciative when you talked to us on the phone the next day. But now you're complaining? Oh, Lord. Mr. Trump's other criticisms of the review process are similarly disingenuous. For instance, he complains that he was prevented from reviewing the underlying documents cited in the draft report. Thank you guys for hitting that. Brandy's letting you know that we are in a subwave. So I appreciate that as well. Yeah, they know how to waste time. That's for sure. That is for sure. That is for sure. That is for sure. We have 11 minutes to have 3 more subscribers. 11 minutes to achieve 3 more subscriptions, people. So appreciate that. All right. Okay, so here we go. He says, for instance, he complains that he was prevented from reviewing the underlying documents cited in the draft report. But over the 4 days that Mr. Trump's attorneys were given to review the report, they never requested access to a single underlying document, despite the fact that the office had attorneys on hand specifically assigned to respond to any questions counsel might have. So he said, you complained that you didn't have access to any underlying documents, but you didn't ask for none. We literally had people sitting there to address any concern you had. We literally appreciate you guys doing subscriptions, right? He said, but we were ready for you to assist. And y'all didn't ask for the entire 4 days that you were there. You didn't ask to review a single thing, but now you're complaining that you didn't get to review them. Really? And now there's a second subwave. 2 more subs in 5 minutes, it says. Remember, if you're subbing, if you're gifting subscriptions, which I really appreciate, Make sure that you check the profiles of and posts of the people that you're gifting. Okay. And so then here's what it says. Relatedly, Mr. Trump insinuates that the office improperly, quote unquote, demanded that counsel delete discovery productions prior to their review of the draft report, when in fact, that deletion was required by the protective orders that federal judges entered in both of Mr. Trump's criminal cases. And then he cites the criminal cases. Okay. In sum, Mr. Trump's counsel had a full opportunity to review the draft report and only came to the office to review it on the first 2 days of the 4 days that it was available. Upon completing that review, Mr. Trump has not contested a single factual representation in the report, instead objecting only to its public release. Okay. Other complaints by Mr. Trump are addressed and rebutted by the report and court decisions. For instance, Mr. Trump recycles his baseless allegation that the office's work constituted a partisan attack, a claim flatly rejected by the only court to have ruled on it. And it was a denying his motion to dismiss the case, right? And it said, quoting, finding no evidence of discriminatory purpose, end quote. And then it says, quote, no evidence demonstrating a likelihood of vindictiveness, end quote. And quote, no evidence that would lead the court to infer that prosecutorial discretion has been abused, end quote. And then it says, the report explains in detail that office's steadfast adherence to neutral and even-handed application of the law and to the department's election year sensitivities policy. Mr. Trump also persists in his challenge to the Attorney General's authority to appoint a special counsel, which is the subject of a pending appeal in the 11th Circuit. As explained in my report, the office is confident that the department has strong arguments to prevail on that issue. Finally, Mr. Trump's letter claims that dismissal of his criminal cases signifies Mr. Trump's quote unquote complete exoneration. That is false. Like he literally says, finally, Mr. Trump's letter claims that dismissal of his criminal cases signifies Mr. Trump's quote unquote complete exoneration. That is false. As the office explained in its dismissal motions and in the report, the department's view that the Constitution prohibits Mr. Trump's indictment and prosecution while he is in office is categorical and does not turn on the gravity of the crimes charged, the strength of the government's proof, or the merits of the prosecution, all of which the office stands fully behind. So what Jack is telling you is, listen, we can't prosecute you while you are in office, but you will not be in office forever. And we stand on everything we intend to prosecute, whenever that time may be, which I think is fantastic. Okay, so that is his response to Trump's letter. Now, let me look really quickly back here. Hold on one second, because it's 170 some pages. So one sec. Okay, this is what I wanted. So how would you guys like to hear the letter from Trump's attorneys about releasing this report? Because I've got it. Okay. Hold on. Okay. Whew. All right, here we go. Okay, I need to, give me a second. I need to keep them together. This is what happens when you have lots of cases and superseding indictments on your desk. So this one, all right. So this is the letter from Donald Trump's attorneys. They were the only attorneys that actually replied in writing after reading the draft report. Oh, thanks, user, for subscribing. I appreciate it. All right. So here we go. I don't even know if I'm ready for this, but here we go. Okay. All right. Yippee, Carla, right? Can't Trump pardon himself? I mean, I don't know, I guess. But I mean, to do so would indicate his ass was guilty. But I don't know that he can. Can he? Hell if I know. But here we go. Ready? All right. So, dear Attorney General Garland, we write on behalf of President Trump to demand. I just have to stop right there. Oh, that would be cool, wouldn't it, Lulu Bell? Yes, Melissa, I am. So right now I am live on YouTube and I'm on Facebook. And then these are all the other places where I am. And that is my handle on all the places. So yeah, I just had to stop right there. I just had to stop right there. We write on behalf of President Trump, who was it. I mean, this letter is dated January 6th of this year. So it should have said President-elect Trump, but whatever. Facts don't matter, apparently. We write on behalf of President Trump to demand that Smith terminate all efforts toward the preparation and release of this report, the quote unquote draft report. I wonder how well that worked since I'm holding the draft report in my hand. I just since when do you fucking demand? Sis, sleep. As you know, courts in Florida and the District of Columbia have now dismissed both of Jack Smith's failed cases against President Trump. Rather than acknowledging, as he must, President Trump's complete exoneration, Smith now seeks to decimate an extrajudicial, quote unquote, final report to perpetuate his false and discredited accusations. Sorry. What world do these people live in? What world? To me, I don't understand how these people get to practice law. I don't understand. How do they get to practice law? Consistent with the bad faith crusade that Smith executed on behalf of the Biden-Harris administration from the moment he was appointed, we were only permitted to review the draft report in person in the District of Columbia, including prohibitions on the use of any outside electronic devices in the room where the draft report was made available. Yes. That's the way it fucking works. No, you don't get to take electronic outside devices in there. Why is that a thing? Why is this something that you didn't know? Smith's team likewise demanded, in advance of any review, that we delete prior discovery productions, preventing us from reviewing any of those underlying documents cited in the draft report. Remember, that was an order by the judges, not Jack Smith. Those were orders given by the judges in the case. Nevertheless, it is clear, as has been the case with so many of the other actions of Smith and his staff, that the draft report merely continues Smith's politically motivated attack, and that his continued preparation of the report and efforts to release it would be both imprudent and unlawful. Neither of those things is accurate. First, Smith lacks authority under our Constitution to issue a report because he was not validly appointed, and the plain terms of the permanent indefinite appropriation that he has pillaged for more than $20 million clearly do not apply to his politically motivated work. The preparation and release of a report, therefore, would extend and perpetuate Smith's violations of the Appointments Clause and the Appropriations Clause. Yeah, that's not a thing, folks. That's literally not a thing. Listen, the actual statute is there that Jack Smith was appointed under. It's the same regulations that they have used every time they have appointed a special counsel. Like, and I know that people like to think that this is a thing, but just because you say something 500 times does not make it true. You might want it to be true, but that does not make it true. Like, I can say, I have $1 million in the bank. 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 Now, I wonder what would happen if I check my account right now. Right? Just because you say a thing repeatedly does not make it so. Not in that moment, anyway. You know? Just saying. Right, Blue Honey Pot? Second, the draft report violates fundamental norms regarding the presumption of innocence, including with respect to third parties unnecessarily impugned by Smith's false claims. Releasing the report to the public without significant redactions that would render its release meaningless would violate prohibitions on extrajudicial statements by prosecutors and Rule 6E. This is particularly problematic with respect to the ongoing proceedings related to Waltine Nada and Carlos de Oliveira, as well as others who Smith and his staff falsely characterized as co-conspirators in the draft report. Okay, so let's just be clear. They didn't release anything about the documents case, so Nada and de Oliveira are irrelevant. Third, preparing a report and releasing it to the public would violate the Presidential Transition Act and the Presidential Immunity Doctrine. The act prohibits all officers. Oh, wait, is he now an officer? Because I thought they were saying he was an officer before. When we were talking about Article 2, what weren't they saying he was an officer before? Come on, y'all. Get with me. Isn't that what they said? They said he wasn't an officer now, right? Before. That's why they said the 14th Amendment wasn't going to work. I said 2, but I meant 14th Amendment. But then it says the act prohibits all officers. Oh, wait. Let me see. Oh, they're talking about Smith. Oh, the act prohibits all officers and those acting as such, including the Attorney General and Smith, at least in his own view of himself, from interfering with the ongoing transition process. Releasing the report does not interfere with the transition process, you guys. Presidential immunity. So let me be clear about something. Let me be clear. He did not get complete and total immunity. Does everybody understand that? The Supreme Court's decision said that if a president takes action in his official role as the president, then he has presumptive immunity, right? Unless, oh shit, hold on. Fuck. Sorry. Something that just happened with a family member. Sorry. Shit. Okay, sorry guys. Damn. No, I don't need to go. I just need to give some. Yeah, Jen, that would be great. Nope, Jen. I'm gonna go on mute. Jen's gonna give me a break really quick. Just stay right here. Just stay right here. Jen's going to do a break. That'll be perfect. Give me 1 second. Thanks, Jen. Perfect timing.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay? I just want to thank you guys for giving Danny a quick little break. And this is a nice little commercial reminder for everybody who's in here. If you are not following Danny already, even though we don't know necessarily the outcome of what's going to happen this Sunday, let's go ahead and support the app anyway. Let's still show everybody that we want to be here. So make sure you're following Danny's account. If you're not following her already, you should see a little follow button to the right of her name in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. And if you haven't hit your little daily heart me, make sure you hit that little orange or red button once per day. If you've already done it once this morning, then you probably won't let you do it tonight. But if you haven't done it yet today, please make sure you're doing that. It shows TikTok that we think our one little coin, what am I trying to say? Is worth her content, right? So we are investment. Investment was the word I was looking for. It's been a long day. It's a one little coin investment to show her that her content is worthwhile. And it also helps the algorithm, the infamous algorithm that helps push her content out to the For You page. So please make sure you're doing that. Thanks, you guys are on it already. That's amazing. So in addition to that, we want to make sure we're hitting Danny's gift goals. That's kind of scrolling with her subscription goal as well. So we're doing that. And then of course, so make sure while I'm doing her little commercial break right now, you guys are tapping that screen like crazy, getting the likes up as much as we can. That's a great free way to support her. Even if you can't do anything that, like cost the coins or cost the money, it's okay. In addition to Danny's TikTok, you'll want to make sure that you're following her. If you haven't already, screenshot her background. It shows you where to find her on all of the other things like YouTube, Fanbase, favorited, Clapper, Facebook, Blue Sky, Discord. It's at the Danny Cook. It's easy to remember, but screenshot it so that you remember to do that if you haven't done those things already. The other thing the algorithm loves, and thank you guys for all the gifts. I really appreciate you guys so much. The other thing that the algorithm loves to see is our shares. So we do that by clicking the little curved arrow in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen and share it with your friends and your frenemies. And if you don't have anybody specific to share it to, make sure you press the little arrow and click the copy link icon, because that still counts as a share and that still helps the algorithm. So we want to do all the things. Danny also has some pay apps so that TikTok doesn't get their little share of the income. And we really like to help Danny buy things like reams of paper, because she's a pen and papers gal and she likes to print out all these resources for us that she does her homework, you guys. So we really want to support her in every way that we can. And again, that's another way to help her because, again, we're not quite sure what's happening with TikTok. So use those pay apps. And if you are a mod, if you can please put those in the chat. Danny has Venmo, which is Danny-Cook-11. That's her Venmo. Her Cash App is the little $, the Danny444. So if mods, one of you guys can put that in the chat, that'd be great. Once I'm off the panel, we can even pin that for 60 seconds so people can see it and screenshot it and use those to help her out. So again, we really want to help support the creators like Danny, who are doing all this work and this research for us, right? We really need to count on resources that we can trust to bring us accurate facts, right? That's going to be more important than ever. So let's show Danny how much we appreciate her time and her effort in doing that for us so we can keep coming to her. And don't forget, you guys, if you haven't subscribed or followed or downloaded her podcast, she's done 2 episodes so far. They're amazing. Yeah. I really love listening to the podcast. It's like my daily talk radio or weekly talk radio in this case, but I love it. And again, you guys, she's doing a lot of work behind the scenes. Her most recent podcast took her 7 hours to edit. So please, let's appreciate that by doing the follows, and also make sure you're spreading that around your social media too. Copy her podcast or do a screenshot, show other people where to find that so we can bring more people into the fold to get the facts as well. Love it. You guys are listening. I listened to, and again, let's make sure we're sharing that and spreading the word. So thank you guys for giving Danny her break, and thank you guys for the gifts. That also helps Danny's algorithm. So for all the things, love you guys. I found some of my best friends through Danny's group here. I hope you guys do too.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you, Jen, for the incredible commercial. Titan. I knew it wasn't going to last long. I knew it. Oh my Jesus. Titan.
Danny, I just have to do a quick plug. I saw some of Deanna's little designs, and Titan just reminded me of them. I freaking love them, so I hope you get to see those pretty soon. I think she was working on sending those to you.
She emailed me.
And I love them. So, yeah. Oh,
boy, I mean, he's so sweet and all the things, but I really need him to stop because like my desk is completely covered with the report, the superseding indictments, my notebook, my laptop, you guys, my water. And I'm like, I don't know where he thinks his big ass is going because I don't have any space for him at all. So anyway, so yeah, so no, I did see. So for those of you all who don't know, Brianna did some really cute designs, kicking around the idea of having some merch available. People have been asking me for merch for a long time, and I don't know. It's just it's a lot. So I'm just gonna see. I'm gonna take a look at the designs, and then we're gonna go from there, and we're gonna see. We're just gonna see kind of what happens. So, what I wanted to do this real quick while Jen is still up here. So let me look really quickly. So I don't want to say who or what. Carla, I can text you when I get off of here. But all you need to know, Carla, is that it's not anything that you need to be worried about. But what I can say is that we have somebody that is in the hospital right now with a severe case of sepsis, and is now in ICU. And so yeah, so just good vibes, prayers, good energy, whatever it is that you do that. So let me look real quick. I just wanted to see while we're on here, and because I haven't looked since we've been up, right? But I just want to see really quickly. Stop it, boy.
Titan must have picked up on your vibes too. He's like, I got you some comfort, mommy.
You see?
I bring you some comfort, right?
Yep. So in the last week, so on Saturday, all I did, no, they are not invalid. They are not. So last Saturday, I just put up like a trailer for the podcast. It was a little 15-minute segment. And the first full podcast episode went up yesterday, right? So in it says the last 7 days, but it's really the last 5 days. There have been 852 downloads of the podcast, which is incredible. In the first 7 days, if we hit, yeah, I know, Kimber, but if we hit 1,100 downloads in the next 2 days, that means that the podcast will be in the top 5% of podcasts. So we are currently in like the top 10% of podcasts. But if we hit that 1,100 number, we are sitting in the top 5% of podcasts. So, yeah. So I looked it up today to see kind of like what were the numbers, and what that looks like. So it's really kind of crazy. So.
Yeah, and if you guys would just screenshot the cover, like the cover image of Danny's podcast, and make a little TikTok post with it, right? Because again, we're trying to use TikTok a lot to show everybody how much we appreciate this and want this app to stick around. That's another way to help advertise it. So whatever following you have, it doesn't have to be huge, but get it out there that way, because a lot of people probably follow your content and your reposts. So put a little screenshot out there and just say, hey, new podcast out, follow it now, download today on your favorite, wherever you get your podcasts. You can search it, whatever. And then
let me see if I can find.
Because you have the screenshot of the image, people will be able to recognize it when they find it.
I'm trying to see if I have one of the things up. There it is.
Yep.
So this is the podcast, folks. He is a regal boy, ain't he? He's my sweetheart. But that's the podcast. The latest episode is Jesus and Jenny. And so there you go. But yeah, so, and it's literally on all the platforms. So, it's on, Spotify and, Apple Podcasts and, Podbean and Podcast Addict and all the things. Like it's literally everywhere. Right. So, I do appreciate it. Yeah, the Jesus and Jenny, because it's all about Pete Hegseth yesterday. But yeah, so I appreciate you, Jen. So I'm excited. I'm hoping, yeah, I would love to like break 900 tonight. That way we have a really good shot of, if we stay at this rate, we'll hit 1,100, which would be so. Yeah, no, these are downloads. Yeah, these are downloads. which is kind of crazy because downloads are different than listens. Downloads are different than listens. And so I had to kind of take a look. And then it even shows me like where it's coming from, like where everybody comes from. Okay, buddy. My gosh, what is your deal? He's all in the, you see him, he's all in the juice. He's wanting me to like do his head or whatever. Oh, and by the way, let me just tell you guys this. I can actually live stream on Podbean as part of my podcasting platform. So that may be a thing, right? That may be a thing too that I start to do, is to be able to live stream on the podcast. So thank you, Shauna. I appreciate that. Do you see a little a Kansas dot for me? Oh, it doesn't show me my state. Y'all, he's literally pushing his head up against my chin, trying to love on me. I know, buddy. I know. Okay, so let me see if I can tell you real quick. So it has good Lord. So 96% is US, but it's also, so right now downloads are also happening in Canada, Mexico, Ghana, the Czech Republic, Russia, Switzerland, Chile, Spain, the United Kingdom, Israel, Iran, Morocco, Myanmar, Nigeria, the Netherlands, Norway, and Papua New Guinea.
Wow.
Which is crazy, but
awesome.
funny. Yeah. So that's kind of crazy, right?
Did
So
they keep historic stats for you like that? Like where, like this week you can see where the reach is, and then like in a month from now you can see how it grows.
yep. And I can
That is
export
really
them.
cool.
Yeah. And I can export them and see in CSV. So, and then it actually shows me
That's nerd
like,
you, Danny.
yeah. And then it actually and then it shows me like almost 41% is coming from the Podbean app. Almost 28% is coming from Apple Podcast, 11% from Spotify, 6% from Google Chrome, 3% is iHeart, 3% is Safari, 2% is Facebook, 2% is Amazon Music Podcast, 2% is Audible, 1% is Edge. And then there's Firefox, Android Player, Castbox, Alexa enabled device, Podcast Addict. Like it shows me everywhere. So it's pretty cool. So we'll just see.
That is really cool.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I appreciate you, Jen. I just wanted to kind of let you guys know so that where we are. So that's just kind of exciting for me.
Congratulations on such an amazing, debut.
And look, and since we've been talking 4 more downloads, that was all you guys going, let me download.
That's so cool. Don't forget, you guys, screenshot and post a little TikTok about it.
There you go. That's it. Yep. So appreciate you guys. All right. Thanks, Jen. Appreciate you much. Bye. Titan. No, honey. Jesus. He's the most right now. He is literally the most. YouTube and Facebook. That's all you see right now is Titan. Okay. Hey, Rockin' One Nana. All right. So I'm back. Thanks, Linda. All right. Is there any way to know when a new episode? Yeah. So you'll get a notification. So if you subscribe on whatever platform you're on, Titus, well, so far in Discord, Phantom has it set up so that whenever I put out a new episode, thanks, Peculiar Eve, he literally sends out a notification in Discord that a new episode is out. But wherever you subscribe on, if you subscribe and follow the podcast on any of the platforms, every time I put a new episode up, you will get a notification. Yeah. So you will get a notification. So that's all you got to do. Yeah. Thanks, Ale. All right. So back to this crazy ass letter that they wrote, which, by the way, it is several pages long. Yeah, you're welcome, Titus. Appreciate you. All right. So here we go. So he says, so third, preparing a report and releasing it to the public would violate the Presidential Transition Act and the Presidential Immunity Doctrine, which it would not. Appreciate the money gun, Titus. The act prohibits all officers and those acting as such, including the Attorney General and Smith, at least in his own view. Yeah, Jabbershack, perfect. At least in his own view of himself, from interfering with the ongoing transition process. Presidential immunity, which Smith conceded required pre-inauguration dismissal of his prosecutions, likewise prohibits criminal processes, including disclosures of any prosecutorial reports or statements that would exacerbate stigma and public opprobrium, whatever that is. I got you, CZ. Gotcha. Surrounding the chief executive and otherwise divert from the time and attention that is necessary to complete the transition and run the country, which is just absolute bullshit. Yeah, you see Titan, right? He's all in the way. He is so in the way. He's so in the way. If you're on YouTube and Facebook, you can literally see him. Yeah, he's giving himself a bath. 100%. Thanks, Titus. Congratulations on getting your job. Okay, so here we go. Let me see. And then he says, accordingly, releasing a report regarding Smith's failed and abandoned election interference efforts would violate the act and presidential immunity. Finally, the release of any confidential report prepared by this out-of-control private citizen unconstitutionally posing as a prosecutor would be nothing more than a lawless political stunt designed to politically harm President Trump and justify the huge sums of taxpayer money Smith unconstitutionally spent on his failed and dismissed cases. Under such circumstances, releasing Smith's report is obviously not in the public interest, particularly in light of President Trump's commanding victory, that 1.4% victory in the election and the sensitive nature of the ongoing transition process. Accordingly, because Smith has proposed an unlawful course of action, you must countermand his plan and remove him promptly. If Smith is not removed, then the handling of this report should be deferred to President Trump's incoming Attorney General, consistent with the expressed will of the people. Finally, should you disagree with the position set forth below, we respectfully request notice of that decision prior to the unlawful release of any report so that we can pursue injunctive and other relief to protect the rights of President Trump, others unfairly implicated by Smith's works, and the people of this great nation who elected President Trump to run the government and put an end to the weaponization of the justice system. I just vomited in my mouth a little bit. Okay, I'm not doing this. So listen, y'all, this thing is how many damn pages long? I can't do it. I cannot read. How many pages is this? It is 12 pages. It is 12 pages. I cannot do 11 more pages of this. I can't. It's complete horseshit, and we all know it. And they all know it too, just so we're clear. I need for everybody to understand these people know they're lying. They know it, right? So yeah, not doing that. Yeah, 12 pages of horseshit. I can't do it. Okay, Titan, can I get you to move, son? He literally is, it's all BS. So the letter is 12 pages, Grammy. The letter is 12 pages. He's the most right now. Thanks, Brandy. I appreciate it. All right. So listen, now I want to get into the actual documents. Oh shit. I stapled that without the cover letter. Probably because I was like, oh, I don't even want to read it. But here, hold on. All right. Move, son. All right. So I'm going to give you guys who wrote it. His attorneys. His attorneys are Todd Blanche and John Lauro. So Todd Blanche and Emil Bove, B-O-V-E, thank you, peculiar, and John Lauro, which is Gregory Singer, and Gregory Singer. Lauro and Singer is the law firm. I just want to know, are they getting paid? That's what I want to know. I really want to know, are they getting paid? Because I don't know that I believe that they will get paid, right? I just don't know that I believe that they're going to get paid. Stop it. I wasn't trying to change the topic. Move that out of my way. Thank you, TikTok. Jesus. You have a question, Little Farm? What's the question? Are they getting paid? Because he doesn't usually pay his attorneys. He doesn't usually pay his attorneys. Oh, my Lord. Oh, my gosh. Right. Yeah, he doesn't pay anyone. Did Little Farm, did you ask your question? Because I didn't see it if you did. Right, Tigress. Oh, thanks, Titan. Appreciate it. Look at that. Appreciate you guys. Yeah. So if you guys are wondering, it's $16K for the next level. 16K diamonds, which would mean like 32K coins is what's needed for the next jump to 20%. All right. So let me finish all the things. Titan move. Hey, Kelly from Wisconsin. Good to see you. Yeah, but that retainer ain't going to be enough. Appreciate you, Heather. All right. So here we go. We're going to do, so can I give you guys a couple of names to write down? You ready? For those of you guys who want to know. I think what I should do is start with the superseding indictment and then go to the final report so that you have an idea on who these people are. So it gets us closer to back to the A league where I was before. Okay, so I'm going to start with the superseding indictment, folks, and then go to Jack Smith's final report so that you can fill in the gaps with the information, okay? Linka, I had to look twice because, listen, you added Laura. It says at Laura, and then it says Trump is special. He don't do that. And it looked like you were talking to Laura Trump for a second. And I was like, the fuck is happening now? That was funny. It caught me off guard for a second. I was like, Laura Trump. But okay. It's like somebody's fake profile name in here. Okay. So here we go. You ready? Co-conspirator 1 is Rudy Giuliani, which I don't know if you all saw today. He achieved a settlement with Ruby and Shay Moss. Okay. Rudy Giuliani achieved a settlement. Trauma response. Yes, Amanda, 100%. So co-conspirator number 1, whenever you hear that, that is Rudy Giuliani that is being talked about. Co-conspirator number 2, okay, is John Eastman. He's the guy that that Eric Hirschman said was batshit crazy. Hi, baby. 3, co-conspirator 3. Appreciate you, Becky. Co-conspirator 3 is Sidney Powell. Okay. Co-conspirator number 5 is Kenneth Chesbrough. Okay. And then co-conspirator number 6 is Boris Epstein. Epshteyn. Boris Epstein. Not Epstein, but Epstein. Okay? Different folks. Political consultant 1 is Steve Bannon. P2, who is number 4? So 4 was Jeffrey Clark, but they had to bring Clark out of the superseding indictment because of I skipped number 4. It was Jeffrey Clark. So Jeffrey Clark is the environmental attorney that was in the DOJ that they were going to use to replace Bill Barr when Bill Barr said, I'm not doing this batshit crazy stuff that you all want me to do. So then he was actually going to appoint an environmental lawyer to be the head of the DOJ who doesn't even know how to send a damn subpoena. It's crazy, but he was. It's really nuts. And maybe not tonight, but maybe another night, we'll go back and we will review Eric Hirschman's transcript from the January 6th committee, which, by the way, that reminds me, I need to go download every bit of that shit before he gets into office. So this weekend, I will be bringing things down into my external hard drive to make sure none of that shit truly does disappear. Right? So here we go. All right. Titan move, son. All right. I have to put this over the cat and back behind him because he's literally just laying right in front of me, you guys. All right. Here we go. Doom, doom, doom. Superseding indictment. Thank you. What's the second list again? Okay. So in the indictment, okay, he identifies people 2 different ways. Some people are co-conspirators. So they were in this thing with Trump, coordinating and conspiring together to make this happen. Okay. And then there were other people that are political consultants or political, people that are involved that were not conspirators, but they are, thank you. But they are included in the indictment, maybe because they were present when certain things took place, or they were interviewed and they gave certain evidence, things like that. So that's what the P people are, right? So like P1 is Steve Bannon, P2 is Bill Stepien, P3 is Justin Clark, P4 is Jason Miller, P5 is Mike Roman, P9 is Eric Hirschman. He's throughout the superseding indictment, and he's absolutely fantastic. Most of you will remember Pete Hirschman from the January 6th hearings. What's up, Ethan? Where he says on one of the videos that he told him that what Chesbro was telling them to do was bullshit, and it wasn't. Yeah, our guy, Chelsea, he's our guy. So right, flour chicken. So it's just really funny. And then P13 is Jared Kushner. P12 is Jenna Ellis. P14 is Ivanka Trump. So like P18 is Rusty Bowers. There's just a lot of people. P21 is Mark Meadows. P22 is Brad Raffensperger. So yeah, this is actually in my Google Drive, Cindy. It's in my link tree, the entire thing. So, and there's a whole lot of them. That's why I'm not going to read them all. There are 77 P people. There are 77 P people. Don't worry. You don't need to know all the P's. You don't need to know all the P's, but hold on. So we're going to go through this. Okay. So this is the superseding indictment. Brad Raffensperger, he's not a conspirator. He's listed as a P person. So Brad Raffensperger is included because Donald Trump called him to try to get him to quote unquote find 11,780 votes. And Brad Raffensperger said, nope, I don't believe I will. Nope, our election wasn't rigged. Everything was done great, da, 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 da. So that's why he's included. So like, just because people are listed here doesn't mean they did something wrong. Now the co-conspirators, yeah, that means, yeah, they were part of the conspiracy. And so they matter, right? But just so that everyone is clear about why other people might be in here, it's because they were part of other things that took place. So like, for example, Randy Bowers is in here. Rusty Bowers is in here. Rusty Bowers is in here because they tried to get him to call a special session for their state legislature, right? So he's in here. He also refused to do it, okay? So let me try to get comfortable. And here we go. So this is the superseding indictment. Appreciate that, H. Smith, which came from a completely new and separate. Nope, there's a whole section that has January 6th documents in it, Brandy, and it's in there. Okay. All right. So, did we get our sub goal? I don't know. We're not in a sub wave right now. So I think when it had a sub goal of 13, I think we hit 12. So I think we missed it by 1 is what I think. But we're not in a sub wave right now. All right. So here we go. So this is a new grand jury. So when they say that this superseding indictment was just the old stuff rehashed, it's not true. What they did was they went over the entire, how much new stuff than what you read is before? How much new stuff than what you read before? So it has been a long time. It has been a long time since we read this superseding indictment. This superseding indictment came out at the end of August. So we would have read it at the end of August. Like literally that's when we would have read it. So we have not read this superseding indictment since way back then. Okay. And so, the stuff that I read tonight, so like the letter back responding to Trump and their initial Trump, I haven't read those before. So this is going to give, what I love about the superseding indictment is it's not that many pages, and it's going to give us a sequence of events to be able to understand what Jack is referencing when he talks about this final report. Okay. So the grand jury charges that at all times material to the superseding indictment on or about the dates and at the approximate times stated below. Number 1, the defendant Donald J. Trump was a candidate for president of the United States in 2020. He lost the 2020 presidential election. Number 2, Despite having lost, the defendant, who was also the incumbent president, was determined to remain in power. Now, let me just say things that I now know that I did not know at the time that we read this the first time. Okay. Jack's intentional verbiage here is really, really important. So what Jack says is he was determined to remain in power, not to obtain new power, not to take power from someone else, but to remain in power. And in his report, so now I'm going to go back and forth. So this is Jack Smith's final report. Okay. So listen, in the final report, he talks about why he did not charge the Insurrection Act. Okay. And he says that the reason that he didn't, give me 1 second, folks. Here, I got it. I love it. I love the fact that I already know where this is. Yay. And I only read it once. And it's 170 some pages. But I love the fact that I know. I love the fact that I know where it is. Okay, so listen. Here, I don't know. Don't ask me. My brain is very weird. Okay. So, on page 61 of the final report, okay? Don't judge me, y'all. Don't judge me. Okay, so on page 61 at the bottom, it's other charges is listed under E. And here's what he says. He says the office considered, but ultimately opted against bringing other charges. One potential charge, it's in my link tree, Jack. If you go to my profile, I have a link tree on there and it's in there. So it says, one potential charge was 18 USC 2383, which is sometimes referred to as the Insurrection Act, which provides that, I did, Astra, thanks, which provides that, quote, whoever incites, sets on foot, assists, or engages in any rebellion or insurrection against the authority of the United States or the laws thereof, or gives aid or comfort to, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years or both, and shall be incapable of holding any office under the United States, end quote. That is 18 USC 2383. Okay. Now listen, he talks about, so the other charges, which we skipped over just right now tonight. Okay. But the other charges that he did bring, Jack is very, very thorough in giving you all of the case precedent, the legal precedents for the cases in which guided him in bringing those charges. Okay. So he lists all the cases that have come before. So when he talks about this potential charge, the US 2383 charge, he says, listen, cases interpreting Section 2383 are scarce, and they arose in contexts that provide little guidance regarding its potential application in this case. So that's important. So listen, what's really important is when he says the interpretation of that statute. So one of the things that lawyers do, right? It's all about the interpretation of that case law. And a lot of times what you talk about it, no, Blue Honey Pot, no, I don't. Now the difference is that Congress would not need to prove it. So if Congress wanted to interpret for Congress's purposes that Donald Trump participated in or aided or gave comfort to, and they wanted to use that and the Electoral Count Act to disqualify his votes, Congress could do that without having to meet the legal standard that comes with criminal prosecution, because the legal standard that comes with criminal prosecution is beyond a reasonable doubt. And in order to achieve that, you would have to know, how has this statute been interpreted in previous cases, and how was it applied in previous cases? Okay. And if there's not enough cases to show how this particular statute could be applied in this particular case, then it's too great a risk to use it. Okay. So here's what he says. He says cases interpreting Section 2383 are scarce and arose in contexts that provided little guidance regarding its potential application in this case, right? And so he lists a couple of cases. So United States versus Great House. He lists United States versus Cathcart. He lists grand jury. There's another one here. And then reference the grand jury to charge to grand jury, another one. And so listen, he's saying to establish a violation of Section 2383, the office would first have had to prove that the violence at the Capitol on January 6th constituted a, quote, insurrection against the authority of the United States or the laws thereof. And then you would have to prove that Mr. Trump, quote unquote, incited or assisted that insurrection or, quote unquote, gave aid or comfort thereto. Now, he says courts have found or described the attack on the Capitol as an insurrection, right? However, and he talks about the Colorado Supreme Court and things like that, where they actually use the word insurrection in their decisions, right? But they did that in cases where there was no criminal charge under 2383. Okay? So if I say to you that January 6th was an insurrection, but I'm doing it in a case that does not include criminal charges under 2383, I'm not using that section as the basis for my interpretation of it being an insurrection. And so in those cases where the term insurrection was used by the courts, it wasn't a criminal case under 2383. So it's not the same. Okay. So then he says, these cases, the ones that he's naming, he said these cases, however, did not require the courts to resolve the issue of how to define insurrection for purposes of Section 2383 or apply that definition to the conduct of a criminal defendant in the context of January 6th. The most important term that needed to be defined is insurrection. Okay. So I'm going to give you another example. So for those of you guys who have followed me with the healthcare protest, and we have talked about the COPA law, and we have talked about active supervision. One of the things that was never defined in the agreement between the state of Tennessee, the Commonwealth of Virginia, and Ballot Health was the definition of active supervision. It's never been legally defined. There's no legal standard. So if for example, the FTC were ever going to take that case to court and they were going to allege that there was not active supervision, there's no precedent. There is no case that has ever decided in a court of law what the legal definition of active supervision is, especially with regard to a COPA. So that is what makes it very difficult after a COPA is granted for the FTC to step in and do anything because there is no precedent. It would be a precedent-setting case, and that means it's a great risk. So this is what's important for people, right? So currently, not as it applies to a criminal case. We don't have a legal definition of insurrection as it applies to Section 2383 and how that definition under 2383 would apply to this particular case. Now, he goes on to talk about what the regular definition is. COPA, you got it right, Sully. I'll talk about what a COPA is, Sully, on another day. But like if you were to Google me and Ballot Health, you would find a ton of information regarding, okay, I'm just going to give a high overview because we're not here to talk about a COPA tonight, but let me kind of get this for you. So there have been several instances in the history of the United States of America where state legislatures have passed a law allowing a healthcare company to become a virtual monopoly in a region. Okay. And what it does is, shut up, Chelt. And what happens is this is what the law says. The law says that the state legislature is intentionally displacing competition in exchange for state oversight and active supervision, right? So it does away with the antitrust laws on a state and federal level because there's supposed to be active supervision by the state. But there's no legal definition of what that active supervision is supposed to look like, right? So it's we'll do it another day. We will do it another day, I promise. But the whole point in me bringing that up is to say, when you are talking about the legal definition of a word, it has to be, that's not what it means, the suburban misfit. It doesn't mean that he might get away with it again. Listen to this second part and then you'll understand what the difference is. Okay? Because there's nothing saying that he's gotten away with it now. The only thing that has happened right now, folks, is the Constitution says you cannot prosecute a sitting president. That's what the Constitution says. Okay? He will not be a sitting president forever. And his ass can be prosecuted after that. Okay? So I just want you all to hear me when I tell you, it does not mean that he has gotten away with it. It just means it's postponed until he ain't president. That's what it means. Okay? So here we go. It doesn't matter. He is the president-elect, Amanda. So once he is the president-elect and he is covered under the transition team that is part of the Constitution, you can't prosecute. And there would be no way to finish a trial prior to his inauguration. So since there would be no ability to finish a prosecution, there would be no reason to continue. Okay? Jeez. I don't know how my voice got so scraggly. So, all right. So let me go back. So this is the other part that is really, really important. So listen to this. The office recognized, when he says the office, he is referring to the office of the special prosecutor's office. Yeah, Jack. On the final report, I'm on page 63. No. The DOJ rule is about prosecuting within the DOJ rule is about prosecuting and bringing charges within 60 days of an election. That's the DOJ rule that you're referring to. The Constitution says you cannot prosecute a sitting president. Okay? So when he talks about the office, he's referring to the special prosecutor's office. And here's what he says. The office recognized why courts described the attack on the Capitol as a quote unquote insurrection, but it was also aware of the litigation risk that would be presented by employing this long dormant statute. No one has been tried under 2383 in over 100 years. So this is not something where there's going to be a lot of case law to provide guidance to tell you how to properly, try this case. And that means it would have a serious risk in bringing that litigation forward. And so then he says, we understand why the courts used that word, but we also know that that word hasn't been used in terms of a legal standard, move your butt, Titan, in over 100 years. And he says, and this is the part that I need for everybody to hear, because this part is really important. He says, as to the first element under section 2383, proving a quote unquote insurrection against the authority of the United States or the laws thereof, end quote. The cases that the office reviewed provided no guidance on what proof would be required to establish an insurrection or to distinguish an insurrection from a riot. Did you hear that? All of the cases that they reviewed that had to do with Statute 2383, they provided no guidance on how to, on what proof would be necessary to establish it as an insurrection, or how to distinguish an insurrection from a riot. So he says, generally speaking, an insurrection, quote unquote, an insurrection is a rising against civil or political authority, the open and active opposition of a number of persons to the execution of law in a city or state. All right. Now, this is what's important. The act or an instance of open revolt against civil authority or a constituted government. Now, listen. Nope, that is not it, Blue Honey Pot. That is not it. That is not it. Listen, this is the part that's very important. It doesn't matter that they were trying to stop the counting of the vote. It says that you are revolting against the sitting government. Donald Trump was the sitting government. So they weren't trying to obtain power. They were trying to retain power. And that's the difference from a legal standard. Okay? From a legal standard, that is the difference. An insurrection, generally speaking, as referenced in the cases brought before, it distinguishes as revolting against an established government. They weren't revolting against an established government. They were revolting against what would become the new government. So the fight was not to obtain power, it was to retain power. And that legal technicality makes a difference. So if I'm Jack Smith, which I'm not, okay, thank God, but this is what Jack Smith said. He said, listen, I had 3 or 4 other statutes that were significant, that had serious consequences, that I could prove beyond a shadow of a doubt, and I could back up with case precedents, and I could back up with evidence. And so there was no need to risk anything by adding something that I'm not sure I can win. Got it? He said, I don't need to do that because these other charges are super significant. These other charges in and of themselves would have done the damn job had the American people done their job. And we did not. I mean, I did, but some did not. And so that was the difference, right? So there's no need. Okay, so it's just like if I'm going after John Gotti, right? And I have John Gotti on tax evasion, I don't have to try a RICO case that might be hard for me to prove that, would require people, you know what I mean? I don't have to do that because I already have something that will do the damn job. So if you have a case that will do the job, you prosecute the case that you know is winnable rather than prosecute the one that maybe sounds bigger, maybe sounds better, but doesn't have the same evidence, doesn't have the same standard, and doesn't have the same legal precedent. So that is why Jack Smith did not bring that case, because it would have put all the other cases in jeopardy. Does that make sense? Right. I know that, Sandy. And the people that caused those actions were prosecuted. Yeah, listen, this is not about, I keep saying this, y'all. Listen, obtaining justice doesn't mean you don't necessarily get it the way that you want to get it all the time. Sometimes you prosecute using something else instead of the other thing. They might be guilty of the other thing, but if I can get your ass on a different charge, it don't matter what charge I use. Whatever charge I use to get you, you get got. That's all I care about in the end. And had he not won the election, he would have gotten got. Think about how much they delayed this case with airtight cases, with airtight charges. Had he taken on a charge that wasn't sound, that wasn't foolproof, good night, Amy. If he had done that, can you imagine the additional delays, the additional things? You see what I'm saying? So no, you do what you have the evidence for. And so this is what Jack says. He says, listen, the Oxford Dictionary, the Oxford English Dictionary, right, says that the action of rising in arms or open resistance against established authority or governmental restraint, right? So some sources distinguish an insurrection from a riot offense connected with mob violence by the fact that an insurrection, there is an organized and armed uprising against authority or operations of government, while crimes growing out of a mob violence, however serious they may be, no matter how many participants, are simply unlawful acts of disturbance of the peace, but they don't threaten the stability of government, right? So in case law that interprets insurrection in another context, one court observed that an insurrection typically involves overthrowing a sitting government rather than maintaining power, which is what I just said. Yes, a felon can be president because the founding fathers never thought we'd be dumb enough to elect a felon as president. And let me just say this, not all felons are bad people. I know people who are felons that ain't done near the shit that Trump did. So let me just say this, just because someone's a felon I don't like the demonization of people just because they're a felon. I know plenty of felons that are great people, right? Donald Trump is not one of them. So I just want to be clear. We're not lumping everybody together because they have the title of felon. Okay? We're not going to do that. So just want to be clear. All right. So I wanted to just bring that back to your attention. So that is why in the superseding indictment, when Jack Trump says that he was determined to remain in power, that is an important distinction. So this is my thing, Ethan. I think that the documents case is too important to risk the other two people getting off. Just saying. So listen to what he says. He says, so for more than 2 months following Election Day on November 3rd, 2020, the defendant spread lies that there had been outcome determinative fraud. Now, why is that important? Why is it important that he spread the lies that it was outcome determinative fraud? Because I think there were 5 people that were unalived people that voted in one state, right? But that's not outcome determinative. So outcome determinative means it would have changed the outcome of the election. And there wasn't. There was never a single state. There was never a single recount. There was never anything that would have changed the outcome in the election. There just wasn't. So it mattered that he was saying something he knew to be false. Okay. So, and he said that he had actually won. These claims were false, and the defendant knew they were false. Now, why is he saying that? Why is Jack making sure to say in this superseding indictment that Donald Trump knew they were false? I'll show you why. And this is in his final report. In this final report, what page am I on? Okay. So in this final report, as he's breaking down these charges, one of the things he talks about is the parts where he the components that he knew he would have to meet for each of these charges, right? So one of the components was, did he know that what he was saying wasn't true, right? And that's part of the components that was necessary for the case. So give me 1 second. Let me go to, yep, 53. Okay. So what he did, hold on, because there's several of these charges that are very similar. And I want to make sure that I'm reading the right one. Okay. Sorry. Titan, don't look at me like I'm crazy. All right, so here we go. So this is what I love. So Jack outlined, I mean, technically he can pardon anybody. Oh, appreciate you guys. Yeah, I'm over here in the indictment. So Sandy, he can pardon people. Sure. He can 100%. Okay. All right. So yeah, I made that noise and Titan was like, looked at me with like his little brow furrowing. Okay. So check this out. So one of the things that I love about, so the page that I'm on is 53. Okay. I'm on 53 of the final report. And it says 53 at the bottom. Okay. So what I love about this final report is Jack outlines what were the expected defenses that Trump was going to bring forth and why his evidence could overcome them and how he knew he would still win. So listen to this. This is D, defenses. Before presenting the original indictment to the grand jury, the office considered Mr. Trump's potential defenses to these charges. Y'all, that is just smart lawyering. You always want to play devil's advocate. You want to be in the mind of your opposition. So what are the potential possible defenses that he could use, right? And he says, so listen, he said it included a good faith defense, an advice of counsel defense, and constitutional defenses. And he said the office concluded that each of these defenses was legally or factually flawed and thus would not prevail. First, it was expected that Mr. Trump would argue that he acted in good faith when he sought to stop the transfer of presidential power because he genuinely believed that outcome determinative fraud had undermined the election's integrity and caused him to lose. But guess what? It hadn't. So listen, he says, as set forth above in section 2A, the office developed strong proof that Mr. Trump knew that his election fraud claims were false. For example, Mr. Trump made persistent claims of a large number of unalived voters in Georgia, including in his speech at the Ellipse on January 6th, even though his senior campaign advisor and Georgia's Secretary of State had told him that the claims were untrue. He spread lies, including in his Ellipse speech, of sinister, fraudulent, quote-unquote, vote dumps in Michigan, even after Michigan's Senate Majority Leader told him that nothing suspicious had occurred. And Mr. Trump repeatedly made provably false allegations about fraud in Pennsylvania, despite having been told by the chairman of the state Republican Party that the vote count was occurring as expected. Even if Mr. Trump maintained that he sincerely believed that he'd won the election, a conclusion unsupported by the evidence collected in the investigation, it would not provide a defense to the Section 371 charge. Chris Hellman, he has a right to his own belief, but what he doesn't get to do is act as if that belief is sincere when he's already been given evidence that it's not true, and he has admitted to other people that he knows it's not true. And that's where he got his ass in trouble, because he literally told other people that he knew he lost. And that is why we know he didn't actually believe it. And that is where it's a problem. If you say something that you know is not true, then you become legally responsible for what you just said. So here's the rest of the evidence. And this is why paying attention is critical, because here's what he says. Even if Mr. Trump maintained that he sincerely believed he won, which is not supported by the evidence, it would not provide a defense to the Section 371 charge. A defendant may not use deceit to obstruct a government function, even if he believes the function itself to be unconstitutional, because, quote, a claim of unconstitutionality will not be heard to excuse a voluntary, deliberate, and calculated course of fraud and deceit. You can reference that in court case Dennis 384 U.S. at 867. Quote, one who elects such a course as a means of self-help may not escape the consequences by urging that his conduct be excused because the statute which he sought to evade is unconstitutional. There are, quote, appropriate and inappropriate ways to challenge perceived illegalities. Just as the president of a company may be guilty of fraud for using knowingly false statements of fact to defraud investors, even if he subjectively believes his company will succeed. Mr. Trump could be convicted of using deceit to obstruct the government function by which the results of the presidential election are collected, counted, and certified, even if he established that he subjectively believed that he had reason to do so because of his claims that the election was, quote unquote, rigged. It bears emphasis that Mr. Trump's knowing deceit was pervasive throughout the charged conspiracies. Okay? This was not a case in which Mr. Trump merely misstated a fact or two in a handful of isolated instances. On a repeated basis, he and his co-conspirators used specific and knowingly false claims of election fraud in his calls and meetings with state officials in an effort to induce them to overturn the results of the elections in their states. To his own vice president, to induce Mr. Pence to violate his duty during the congressional certification proceeding, and on January 6th as a call to action to the angry crowd he had gathered at the ellipse and sent to the Capitol to disrupt the certification proceeding. Yeah, so it goes on. Hold on. I'm not going to cover this one yet because we're not there. So, and here's the other one. So some people thought that he would be okay because of the First Amendment. I love the fact that Jack covered this too. I don't want to mix my pages up. Okay. So listen, finally, the office anticipated that Mr. Trump would claim that his conduct was protected by the First Amendment. As the district court recognized, quote, the First Amendment embodies our profound national commitment to the free exchange of ideas, and it bars the government from restricting expression because of its messages, its ideas, its subject matter, or its content. At the same time, it is well established that the First Amendment does not protect speech that is used as an instrument of a crime. Quote, many long-established criminal laws permissibly criminalize speech that is intended to induce or commence illegal activities. Okay, that's United States versus Williams, such as fraud, bribery, perjury, extortion, threats, incitement, solicitation, and blackmail. Okay, prosecutions for conspiring, directing, and aiding and abetting do not run afoul of the Constitution when those offenses are carried out through speech. Consistent with that precedent, the original and superseding indictments recognize that Mr. Trump, quote, had a right, like every American, to speak publicly about the 2020 presidential election and even to falsely claim that there had been outcome determinative fraud during the election and that he had won. But guess what? They charged him, however, with using those false statements to defeat a government function, injure the right to vote, and obstruct an official proceeding. And that is where he went wrong, because his speech was used in the commission of a crime, which means it is no longer protected. Okay? So just so we're clear about that. All right. Everybody's okay? I need to drink a water. Okay. Damn. All right, here we go. But the defendant used his campaign to repeat and widely disseminate anyway to make his knowingly false claims appear legitimate, create an intense national atmosphere of mistrust and anger, and erode public faith in the administration of the election. 3, as a candidate and a citizen. Notice he did not say as the president. He said, as a candidate and a citizen, the defendant had a right, like every American, to speak publicly about the election and even to claim falsely that there had been outcome determinative fraud during the election and that he had won. He was also entitled to formally challenge the results of the election through lawful and appropriate means, such as by seeking recounts or audits of the popular vote in states or filing lawsuits challenging ballots and procedures. And indeed, in many cases, the defendant did pursue these methods of contesting the election results. His efforts to change the outcome in any state through audits, recounts, or legal challenges were uniformly unsuccessful. Well, that's exactly what he did. You are correct. So, right. In other words, not official acts, Melissa. You got it. So, number 4, shortly after Election Day, the defendant also pursued unlawful means of discounting legitimate votes and subverting the election results. Okay. In doing so, the defendant perpetrated 3 criminal conspiracies. A conspiracy to defraud the United States by using dishonesty, fraud, and deceit to impair, obstruct, and defeat the lawful federal government function by which the results of the presidential elections are collected, counted, and certified by the federal government, which is a violation of 18 U.S.C. 371. A conspiracy to corruptly obstruct and impede the January 6th congressional proceeding at which the collected results of the presidential election are counted and certified, which is the certification proceeding, in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1512. And a conspiracy against the right to vote and to have one's vote counted, which, by the way, this is the most serious of those 3 charges, which is 18 U.S.C. 241. That one right there is the one he was terrified of. Each of these conspiracies, which built on the widespread mistrust the defendant was creating through pervasive and destabilizing lies about election fraud, targeted a bedrock function of the United States federal government, which is the nation's process of collecting, counting, and certifying the results of the presidential election. 5, in furtherance of these conspiracies, the defendant tried, but failed, to enlist the vice president, who was also the defendant's running mate, and by virtue of the Constitution, the president, yes, Smile City Girls, the answer to that question is yes. The president of the Senate, who plays a ceremonial role in the January 6th certification proceeding. Good evening, Danielle. And so this is count 1, which is conspiracy to defraud the United States, which is 18 U.S.C. 371. The allegations contained in paragraphs 1 through 5 of this superseding indictment are realleged and fully incorporated here by reference. The conspiracy, which is 7, from on or about November 13th, 2020 through on or about January 20th, 2021, in the District of Columbia and elsewhere, the defendant, Donald J. Trump, did knowingly combine, conspire, confederate, and agree with co-conspirators known and unknown to the grand jury to defraud the United States by using dishonesty, fraud, and deceit to impair, obstruct, and defeat the lawful federal government function by which the results of the presidential election are collected, counted, and certified. Now, why does that matter? This using dishonesty, fraud, and deceit. because that's literally outlined in the statute, that's the means through which the conspiracy is taking place. Dishonesty, fraud, and deceit. Okay. The purpose of the conspiracy is number 8. So the purpose of the conspiracy was, quote, to overturn the legitimate results of the 2020 presidential election by using knowingly false claims of election fraud to obstruct the federal government by function by which those results are collected, counted, and certified. So there's two different things, y'all. To even interrupt, like, it's illegal to try to prevent a government function from happening. So it's a completely separate charge. Okay. And then here's the defendant. The defendant enlisted co-conspirators to assist him in his criminal efforts to overturn the legitimate results of the 2020 presidential election and retain power. Remember, we keep talking about the fact that it is retained power. That's the difference, folks, and why he was not charged with the Insurrection Act. Okay. So these co-conspirators included the following individuals, none of whom were government officials during the conspiracies, and all of whom were acting in a private capacity. So I have them labeled here for you on the superseding indictment. A, co-conspirator 1, which is Rudy Giuliani, a private attorney with whom the defendant put in charge of his campaign's litigation efforts and who was willing to spread knowingly false claims and pursue strategies that the defendant's 2020 re-election campaign attorneys would not. Okay. B, co-conspirator number 2, which is John Eastman, who's a private attorney who devised and attempted to implement a strategy to leverage the vice president's ceremonial role overseeing the certification proceeding to obstruct the certification of the presidential election. Now, I want to be clear about something. For people who say that it doesn't matter, it does matter. And I will tell you why going over these court cases really are important and why the evidence matters. Okay. I'm going to tell you why it matters and why it is a good thing to still Red Sass, I don't know what you mean. Is it too late for anything to be done? I don't know what you mean for anything to be done. Folks, let me just be clear. The only thing that would occur, the only thing that could potentially even possibly occur, right, is if Congress were to use the Electoral Count Act to deem him unqualified under the 14th Amendment. But I will tell you right now, the likelihood of that happening is slim to none. It's never been done. And if it were going to be done, I would imagine it would have been done prior to the certification on January 6th. So the short answer is probably not. Okay. So when people say, this is why I think that people need to really kind of come to terms with this. This is where we are. And the people in your life that chose not to vote because they were protesting because of Palestine and Gaza, you can thank those people for where we are. You can thank a large swath of the Latinx community, right? Because that they are also responsible, along with the 53% of YT women, right? Those are the 3 largest sections of voters that are responsible for where we are. The people who didn't vote at all, or they voted third party in protest, the Latinx community, and the 53% of YT women. This is why we are where we are, folks. And you know, that was communicated clearly to a lot of people. And it just kind of is what it is, you know? So I think that this is what people have to really kind of get on board with, right? This is something that this is something that, right, it was no secret, right? And let's just be clear. I already said this, and I'm going to say it again. In my opinion, there were, let me see. There were 3 things that were, no, it's not that YT men get off. YT men always vote that way. The vast majority of YT men always vote that way. So they have always been that way. What do I mean by the Latinx community? I mean the Latin community. That's what I mean. So when you say Latina, that indicates female gender. When you say Latino, that is the male community. And when you say Latinx, that includes everyone. And so when you look at the numbers of the largest increase in votes, it came from that community and it came from YT women. And the reason why YT women get held to account in this part is because women's rights were on the line, and everyone knew that. It is not as if like everyone, after the Dobbs decision, supposedly every woman in the world was going to be voting for something that is not Donald Trump, right? But that turned out not to be true. Okay? So let me just tell you something, folks. In my opinion, there are 3 things that played a central role in this election. Okay? 3 things. Christianity, the use of religion, misogyny, and racism. Those 3. Those 3 things. And all of the places where they intersect was a big part of this election. Period. Okay. And so the reality is people have to stop looking for someone to save them and be about the business of saving yourself. And that is where we are. We are at the point where we must save ourselves. And that means you better start tracking these pieces of legislation. You better start contacting your congresspeople and your senators. You need to you better find someone who's qualified and a decent human being and has integrity and get them to run for office. Because this is where we are. The good news is we have special elections that can make a difference. Okay? And we have midterms. And the midterms are only 21 months away. No, Blue Honeypot, I'm not running for office. I've had this conversation with people many, many times because everybody asks me to run all the time. So what people have to know where their place is and where they are most useful. Okay. So no, I don't, Sandy. Please don't tell me that. It is so crazy to me that people from the outside think that you can tell me what I need to do. And I know that you mean well, but listen to me. This is something that people have said to me for 7 or 8 years. It is something that I have contemplated on every level on many occasions. Okay? And if I felt like that's where I would be the most beneficial, I would be happy to do it. But here's what I know. My strengths are in communicating. My strengths are in organizing. My strengths are in mobilizing people. This is where I'm strongest. Being a member in Congress where I'm one person that has one vote that whatever, that really can't impact the masses and who is tainted by a particular party, whichever party I'm at, makes me less effective than where I am right now. And so that is why I say everybody has to know where they are meant to be and where they are best suited. And so I know that, right? I know my strengths. I know what I'm good at. I'm great at strategy. I'm great at messaging. I'm great at organizing. I'm great at all of those things, right? I am not great at bullshit sitting in Congress behind a whatever. Right? That's what I'm not. Okay. There are what would be considered good experience for running for office. Let me tell you something. Mediocre people wake up every day and decide to run for office. So what I would say good experience for running for office is legitimately, Titan, stop, is legitimately having a desire to do what is in the best interest of the people. Like literally. Yeah. You have to be willing to know who you are and understand what if you don't stop it, boy. Right. I'm telling you right now. Did you see how quick Macy came back though and said, "Oh no, 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 no. I wasn't meaning fight." She came back and cleared that shit up real quick. She said, "No, I meant go outside chambers and talk." Girl, that is not what you meant. But I see you getting yourself all the way together. But that is not what you meant. That is not what she meant. You want to take it outside? Girl, that ain't never meant let's go outside and talk ever. But I know. Yeah. Yeah. She said, "Let me clean this shit up real quick." Right? Yeah, it was hilarious, right? But so this is my thing. What I would love to do, and the things that I'm really, really good at, is helping people communicate the messaging that they need people to hear. Okay. So I'll give you an example. I was talking with a friend of mine who I came to know after he ran for a state representative. Okay. And he is, yeah, I don't want to run, David. I'm much rather do strategy and communication. But he was talking about, so he's in a small town community area, which, small towns areas, they don't like outsiders, and they definitely don't like outsiders that come from the city, right? And so we were having this discussion about, the challenges that he had countered and what did or didn't work. And he was like, I just really feel like he said, number one, he said, I'm an entrepreneur. I work from home. I'm in tech. And he was like, and I'm not from the area. You know what I mean? So like, it was hard for me to fit in and people didn't relate to me and whatever. What I said, do you know what I would have told you? If I had been your campaign manager, the first thing I would have said to you, right? The first thing that I would have had him do is say that. The minute he went to any event, every town hall, every county fair, every, farmer's market, every place he went, this is what I would have him tell people. And I would have had it on his website. I would have said, "Hey, listen, let me just start this off by saying, folks, I ain't from around here. I know that I am the odd man out. I know good and well none of y'all want to trust me because you don't know me. I don't fit in, and I get it. And let me tell you why that's the best thing for you. The fact that I am not from here, I'm going to tell you why that's the best thing for you. I'm not part of the good old boy network. I don't owe anybody anything. Ain't nobody done no favors for me that I got to give them back. I am only here for the people. And you get to tell me what you need, what's wrong, and what needs to be improved. And I'm here to learn from you. All I'm going to ask is when I come to visit your farms and I come to visit your whatever, like, don't laugh at me if I step in horse shit and I'm really not down to learn how to cow tip. And he was like, oh my God, that was great. And I was like, well, I'm just telling you, that's what I would have, if I was your campaign manager, that's what I've had you say. And do you know why? Everybody would have did exactly what you're doing. They would have laughed. They would have laughed, right? When you laugh, you can't be defensive. When you laugh, you are open, right? Nope, I haven't heard anything about the inauguration. So, like I said, these are the things that I'm good at. So, when is the best time to handle an objection? If you've been in my trainings, you don't get to say it. But let me ask everybody else, when is the best time to overcome an objection? When is the best time? When is the best time? If you've been in one of my trainings, you can't tell me. You can't say it. Jen says at the beginning. You says right away. Mary's got it before it's made. That's it, Mary. The best time to overcome an objection is before you get it. So what I'm going to be doing in my brain is I'm going to be thinking of all the reasons you would object to me. And then I'm going to make sure that I address all of those reasons, and I'm going to turn them into your benefit. I'm going to turn them into the best thing. Yep, I know this is what you're going to say. And let me tell you why that's great. Got it? So again, this is why I say, this is the stuff that I love to do. I love to talk to people who are going to go out and organize. I want to talk to people about how to have effective conversations, right? In the political world, you hear them talk about a ground game, and we're going to go, Titan. We're going to go out organizing. We're going to knock doors. Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you knock 100,000 doors, and it doesn't matter how many conversations you have if they're not effective. You have to have conversations that are effective. Right? And so those are the things that I like to help people do, especially when it's with people of opposing views. I love to find common ground. I love to find that place where we meet and we create understanding, even if we don't gain agreement. Because follow me, folks, if we create understanding, if I understand you and you understand me, even if we don't agree, we are less likely to hurt each other. We are less likely to call each other names. We are less likely to be against each other because now we understand. Right? And so that is why. So now you guys on Facebook and YouTube, you can't see this. My TikTok people, you can see this. So for all of my subscribers, for all of the people that have come to my trainings, right? Here's what I would like for you to do. Put in the comments for me the 4 things I say you need to bring to every conversation. What are the 4 things you need to bring to every conversation? What are they? They're chatting. Authenticity. Yep, that's one of them. What else? What else? Jesus, vulnerability. Respect. Did I see one up there? Oh, Jesus. Did I see it? Give me a different word for empathy. Give me a different word for empathy. Compassion. There you go, pie slice. Got them all. Respect, vulnerability, authenticity, and compassion. Carve. C-A-R-V. Carve. You're going to carve out a place of understanding. You're going to carve out a meeting ground. Compassion, respect, authenticity, and vulnerability. When you bring those four things to every conversation, you can create understanding even if you do not even if you don't achieve agreement. And this is what is necessary for us to move forward as a country and overcome the political divide. This is what's necessary. Okay. Yes, Julianne, especially when MAGA is involved. And how do I know? Because I've done it. I've done it right here on TikTok with MAGAs. I've done it in real life with MAGAs. Yeah. So especially when MAGA is involved. Yes, they do bend, Julie. They do. They 100% do bend. No, Cheney, I'm not running for office. I literally just explained why I'm not running for office. They do bend. Thanks, David. Thanks for gifting that subscription to Brittany. Right? A few even became fans. They did. They did. So listen, folks, if you have, let me just tell you something. If you are walking around with the mindset that MAGA never changes, you are useless to the movement. You are useless to us coming together and moving forward. Because as long as you believe that MAGA will never move, they will never move. Any conversation that you enter into will be fruitless because you have already predetermined the outcome. So if you have predetermined the outcome, don't be surprised when it is exactly what you say it is. Why do we need them? Why wouldn't we not want them, Jean? Why would we not want them? And by the way, we need them because we all live in the same communities. We all live in the same society. We all live in the same country. So like it or not, we all need each other. To quote the pretty smart Kamala Harris, right? You didn't fall out of a damn coconut tree. Yeah, the bottom line is, even if someone is, listen, let me just say this. I want a person who is a MAGA to have access to safe, quality, affordable health care. I want someone who is MAGA. I want their children to be able to eat lunch at school and afford it or have it free. I want someone who is MAGA to be able to pay their rent and have affordable housing. I want someone who is MAGA, right? To be paid a living wage. Someone being MAGA doesn't make them less than a human being. Period. So you get to choose how you approach and how you see this entire thing. Well, they're not rocking one nana. I know exactly who those people are. And no, those right-wing oligarchs are not going to help lower prices for us. I'm aware. I know exactly what the incoming administration looks like. I know what they don't plan on doing. But what I'm saying is that doesn't change what I desire for everyone. I can want good things for people, even if they voted for the wrong thing. No, Sandy, I didn't say that. He cannot be prosecuted while he's in office. That does not mean he won't ever be prosecuted. No, Anthony, I never said that it's Trump's fault because prices are high. What are you talking about? I never said that. Ever. So why would you say that I did? Because that's not even remotely close to anything that I said. Yeah, I know, Brittany. So, Pamela, remember, we don't speak what we don't want, right? Yeah, it's really bad. They got that way. They got that way. Dang, where did I put? La 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 la. Hold on. I have lost some paperwork. Give me a second. Folks, I don't know. He might have. No, Cindy, you're good. Literally, he knocked something off, so he might have. And did. He knocked it off. He did. He knocked it off. So, I don't even know what's happening in these comments over here. Yeah, we definitely know how things got the way they are, right? Right. Tighten the office assistant who starts my lives when I'm not ready for him to, right? Definitely. Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. So, listen, folks. Right, Brittany. I was like, what in the world? How did that happen? But it did. The cat started the live. All right. So, yeah, this is my thing. So I've told you all, ignore trolls, because the more that I talk about the facts, the more that I read the indictments and the final report, the quicker they leave, right? And so, that's that. Just don't give them anything to feed off of. Okay? Yeah, no worries. Good night, Life on Purpose. Dexter, I have not, but they wouldn't be the first place to do that. Tennessee has made camping on public property or federal property, state property a crime. There's quite a few places. I don't know about homeless shelters, but yeah, so that would not surprise me at all. I'd have to look to see, but it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't shock me. Yeah. So, folks, I think, like I said, it's going to be really important for people to be looking at their state legislature, to look at the bills that have been filed, and to make sure that you are. And listen, it's not enough just to call your representatives. Email them, 100%, right? Email your representatives. Post on social media that you've emailed them. Post their responses. Tag them on social media so that they can be held to account. Write letters to the editor. Write op-eds in your local papers, your state papers, things like that. These are the things, like, this is part of the work. This is part of the work. Got it? So, it's just that simple. That I don't know. Lulu Bell, I don't know. So I just want you to be clear, guys. Ignore Jersey Jeff. Jersey Jeff has he's following 0 people and has 24 followers, which tells me more than likely he's a troll and not anybody here for any particular good reason. You know? Because if he really wanted to have a conversation, he'd just request to come up on the panel, but he's not. Okay? I don't want you to follow me, Jersey Jeff. I'm okay. Honey, you don't got to follow me. You're in here though, aren't you? That's what tickles me. And when they're like, I wouldn't follow you. Well, you followed my ass right on in this live and you still here. Like, I don't hang out in places I don't want to be. I don't go to rooms where I don't like the creators. Like, why be somewhere that makes you mad? Crazy. It's a sad, sad life. It's a sad, sad life. It is very wild, right? It's crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. But you know, people do what right, Donoski, baby carrots. Baby carrots. Yeah. So okay, so really quickly, we're going to continue to talk about this. I want to give you the rest of the co-conspirators just so that you know them. Okay. So John Eastman is co-conspirator number 2. That is the private attorney who devised and attempted to implement a strategy to leverage the vice president's ceremonial role overseeing the certification proceeding to obstruct the certification process of the presidential election. Okay. What's up, Teresa? Sidney Powell is co-conspirator number 3. Now, the funny thing about Sidney Powell is they ended up shutting her ass out. Nobody would even take her call on January 6th. Oh my gosh. You just have no idea. And then after she was banned from the White House by Eric Hirschman, when Eric Hirschman said, nobody let her ass in here. Some little staffer, they got some little staffer to allow to leave a door open for her at the White House, y'all. They got somebody to leave the door cracked open for her, and she and Rudy, they just walking around the damn White House in the middle of the night. And people were like, how the fuck did she even get in here? In the White House, y'all. That's how crazy it was. You don't remember Eric Hirschman talking about this? He was like, who let her in here? Y'all don't remember that? Yeah. So listen, Eric Hirschman is P9 in the superseding indictment. I went to the January 6th, the place where Donald Trump says all of the evidence has been destroyed, where you can actually just go download it and read it and print it and watch it. You can go and get all of the transcripts from the investigations for January 6th. You can get not just the final report, but all the videos and all the things. And so I did. And Eric Hirschman, his transcripts from his testimony before the investigators was 220 pages long. We read it right here on this live, right? Do I like anything about Trump Vance? What do you mean? You mean as people or in terms of policy or what? Okay. Co-conspirator number 5 is Kenneth Chesbrough. Okay. He's a private attorney who assisted in devising and attempting to implement a plan to submit fraudulent slates of presidential electors to obstruct the certification proceeding. And then co-conspirator number 6 is the unknown political consultant who we now know is Boris Epstein. Boris Epstein. That is who co-conspirator number 6 is. She said policy. Let me see. I think the Abraham Accords was a good thing that Trump did. I think The Mission Act that was done in 2018 was decent for veterans, but it has lots of problems now, and ended up costing more than it needed to. Actually, the PACT Act under Biden was better than the Mission Act under Trump, and it was better than the Choice Act under Obama. Biden's PACT Act was better than both of those two. I think I think doing warp speed in terms of getting the necessary medicines for C-19 was a good thing. I'm trying to think. I mean, in terms of policy, I don't know that Trump has that many. We never saw a healthcare policy. I think his policies for education are flawed horribly. I think his tax plan was a benefit to the wealthy. Um, Everything that I've read shows exactly why that's a thing, why that's true. I don't agree with his immigration. I don't agree with what he did with immigration the first go around, and I don't agree with his plans for the second go around. Um, so I don't like his immigration policy. He actually damaged immigration the first go around. When Donald Trump took office, we had a backlog of immigration cases that was 541,000. When he left office, we had a backlog of immigration cases that was 1.3 million, right? So it more than doubled under his administration, right? I think blanket tariffs is huge. And it's going to be horrible for the average American citizen because we will end up eating the cost. The only time that tariffs work is when they are extremely targeted in terms of competition between us and someone else, right? I don't have any respect for JD Vance because he has sold himself out 100%. I don't like the fact that Trump is the reason why we lost a lot of our oil rigs in 2018. I don't like the deal that he made with OPEC to reduce production and caused a ton of our increase in gas prices in 2022. I don't agree with that. Yeah, I did see that. It's me. I don't have any respect for JD Vance. I don't like the way that he says that women should stay in abusive relationships. I don't like the way that he refers to his wife and children as if they are not his. I don't agree with what he has said when it comes to the foreword that he wrote in Kevin Roberts' book. Yeah, Jen. Yeah. So I don't agree with that. I don't agree with the attempts to put religion into our legislature. I think that that's not a good thing. Yeah, so like that's where I come down on policy. Yeah, that's where I come down. I don't agree with pulling out of NATO. I think that that's a mistake. I think that acting like we can't because we have proven that we can boost the economy and do clean renewable energy. We can do both. We can 100% do clean energy and still maintain our oil production and all of those things. We have been doing it for the last 4 years. So I don't like the fact that they pit things as if they are polarities and that's the only choice, when in fact we can accomplish much of these things at the same time. So yeah. So that's where I fall on that. I don't like the way that Trump talks about our military. I don't like the way he talks about our prisoners of war. I don't like the way he talks about our veterans. I hate the fact that he disrespected Arlington National Cemetery. Yeah. I think that's most of it. Yeah. So when you ask me about policy, those are kind of where the Paris Accords, like all the things, right? So that's just where I land. Oh, thanks, Luke. I appreciate that. Yep, that. Yeah. I don't agree with giving the military an illegal order like he did, which he did, right? So, yeah. So hopefully that answers all the questions. Appreciate you guys. Yeah, they're kicking me off because it is midnight, right? It's 11:36. Yeah. Yeah. I could keep going, right? I could keep going. So here's what we're gonna do. I will be back tomorrow. Tomorrow's gonna be a busy day for me. Yeah, a laundry list of facts. Subscribers, subscribers, I will be sending a little message to let you know where something that I have planned for this weekend with the grands. So tomorrow's going to be busy. So I will be here tomorrow. I'm also going to need to get I'm interviewing a doctor for next week's podcast episode on ballot health and healthcare in general across the country. I've got to get an oil change tomorrow and do some other things and then still come do some of this with you guys. So yeah, so busy day tomorrow, but I will be here and I will see you. So at approximately 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. I appreciate you all. Thank you very much. Make sure that let me put it back up here really quickly. Folks, make sure that you are following me on all of these platforms. If you are a subscriber, please make sure, or if you want to make sure that you always know where I'm at, you need to join my Discord, period. Whether you're on the subscriber side or the regular side, make sure that you're in my Discord because that is going to be like a primary way of communicating. Thank you guys for hitting 500,000 likes and several of the gift goals. I appreciate you tremendously. Thank you to Facebook and YouTube for hanging out with me tonight. We will talk about more of these, the final report, the superseding indictments, and all of those things. And we're going to continue to do what we got to do. So I appreciate you guys very, very much. Have a good evening. Good night, everyone.